quality clothes we can wear for years, mend and repurpose. As fast fashion has grown, he says, clothes have become cheaper, synthetic and disposable. In Ghana, they end up polluting the sand and the sea while suffocating the people who live by them.
Hannah Gelbart there. I'm Pascal Harter. The producer was Polly Hope. That's all for this edition of the programme, but we will be back again next week with more of the real lives behind the news headlines on From Our Own Correspondent here on the BBC World Service.
That was the BBC program From Our Own Correspondent. I'm Saroja Coelho. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we are live downtown in our CBC studios. Thanks for making time for us this Monday morning. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. And thanks for making space for us. Our show is Information Radio, as mentioned. It's a morning show. We are on until 8:37 a.m. And if you need us on the commute, 788-3093 is where you can reach us. Corey Funk's directing the show and covering your commute. Abby Adeyemi will cover the weather on the program. He's our senior tech. And then Brad Lillies is behind the controls of our YouTube stream this morning and every morning. So good morning to our live team. Josh Crabb is in for Heather Wells today, and he's here to start the show. It's 3 minutes to 6. What's making news today?
Good morning, Marcy. The annual median wait time for an MRI in Manitoba is at its longest in at least 6 years. Provincial data suggests the wait for a scan is now almost 6 months. Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. And Canada's decision to recognize the state of Palestine was marked here in Winnipeg at the 4th annual Run for Palestine on Sunday. We'll hear reaction from participants about the move. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
We have much analysis of Canada recognizing Palestine as a state as well coming up on the program and on World Report in just minutes from now. So stay tuned for that. In addition, on the program today, you might have heard about something completely different, changing gears here, about this cat in Steinbach named Dory, who's making the film debut in The Long Walk based on that Stephen King novel. That movie was shot here in Manitoba. We're going to get to know this movie star feline and find out why this sweet little cat was perfect for the role. So that's coming up. Also, Rosanna Hempel's story, Josh alluded to this here, about MRIs in Manitoba. If you need one, you could be waiting a long time, longer than last year. Rosanna's been doing a series on our program called Vital Signs, so this is part 2 of her series. We will hear from her at 10 to 8 this morning with her report through the lens of some patients waiting for MRIs here. So stay tuned. That's coming up on the program as well. And then in the first hour of the show, experts say taking a proper lunch break can boost your energy, focus, and productivity. But how often do you actually take one? We're going to dig into some of the research around that. Stay tuned.
Today on Q.
Mark Ronson has produced some of the biggest pop songs of the last few decades. Uptown Funk, Rehab for Amy Winehouse. But he's here to talk about his new memoir, Night People, and how DJing in clubs set the groundwork for his career as a producer.
So I started to collect records, and then for graduation, I begged my mom to get me turntables.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth. European leaders are warning Israel not to retaliate against the international push to recognize a state of Palestine. Here's British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper speaking to the BBC.
How concerned are you about the risk of Israel using this as a pretext to start annexing parts of the West Bank?
We have been clear, and I have been clear to the Israeli Foreign Minister, we have been clear to the Israeli government that they must not do that.
The UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal have all formally recognized the state of Palestine. And today the United Nations will continue to be focused on a two-state solution in the Middle East. The CBC's Chris Reyes has been speaking to the UN representatives for the Israeli and Palestinian delegations.
We agree with the Secretary General when he says there is no plan B for the two-state solution.
The UN's Palestinian envoy Riyad Mansour says most in the international community agree. That show of support is expected this afternoon at a special conference at the UN General Assembly that will be attended by world leaders, including Prime Minister Mark Carney. The Israeli ambassador Danny Danon has denounced the gathering.
It's not going to promote peace. It's not going to bring the hostages back. It's not going to support the Palestinian people. It's a show. It's a circus.
142 countries already passed a framework to achieving the two-state solution. It included demands for both Israel and a Palestinian state, including an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, a stop to the expansion of Jewish settlements, and that Hamas disarm and never be allowed to form government. The U.S. and Israel voted against it. Mansour says he believes support from the international community is reaching a tipping point.
I think this time it is different. The reason why it's different is because this genocidal war is outraging countries and hundreds of millions of people in the street.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Palestinian recognition is a reward for Hamas. Ambassador Danon echoed Netanyahu.
Ambassador Danon, do you believe there should be a Palestinian state?
I think after October 7th, this debate is off the table. We have to bring the hostages back.
The conference is expected to last a few hours, with world leaders making statements at the UN General Assembly. Israel and the U.S. are not expected to attend. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
CBC News has learned Transport Canada scaled back some surveillance of the Arctic this summer. It normally keeps a careful eye on pollution, endangered whales, and marine safety. But despite increased political attention and security on the region, overflights were limited. As Murray Brewster tells us, the department promised to deploy a surveillance drone in the Arctic 5 years ago, but that hasn't happened.
This is a relatively low-cost capability that has been serving as surveillance and sovereignty assertion function for decades.
Arctic expert Michael Byers, who is puzzled by Transport Canada's decision to patrol the far north this summer on an on-call basis. Documents obtained by CBC News show the decision to adopt a reactive posture was made last spring. One of the 3 aircraft belonging to the National Aerial Surveillance Program was out of commission. The 1970s vintage Dash 7 was so old, according to the documents, it could no longer be operated safely because of a faulty instrument. Also, a $36 million drone ordered by the department 5 years ago has yet to arrive. And the documents say restrictions on pilot overtime on the other 2 aircraft also contributed to the decision. Byers says it's a curious move given the political climate.
There's obviously been a new emphasis on Arctic surveillance and Arctic security under the new Carney government. And these Transport Canada flights are very low cost compared to the kind of surveillance and security measures that DND plans to provide.
For its part, Transport Canada was reluctant to talk about the aerial surveillance program. A spokesman confirmed there are overtime restrictions, but denied they played into the decision. The department acknowledged the drone is still on order, but didn't say why it hasn't arrived. The old Dash 7, which documents suggest might be a write-off, is now apparently being repaired. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Boats crash against the shores of Santa Ana in the Philippines. Super Typhoon Regasa hammers the northeastern province of Cagayan. Strong winds and heavy rain have forced the evacuation of several northern villages. Schools and many businesses, meantime, are closed. Officials are issuing warnings for flooding, landslides and storm surges. And there's also widespread power outages. Domestic flights have also been suspended in the Philippines' northern provinces. Taiwan is also feeling the effects of Regasa. U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to tie the use of Tylenol to a risk with autism. The Washington Post is reporting that later today, the Trump administration is set to link the use of Tylenol by pregnant women to the chances of their children being born with autism, as well as announce the testing of a drug it says can help treat the condition. The CBC's Anis Hadari joins me now from Washington.
Donald Trump is promising, quote, an answer to autism. And there are a couple of things we expect to hear about from him. One is a possible new treatment for autism, and there have been some promising studies behind that one. But we're also expecting a change to policy on one of the most popular over-the-counter drugs in the world. The Washington Post is reporting that health officials here in the U.S. are going to warn pregnant women that they should not use Tylenol. Acetaminophen is the generic name in North America for that drug. The concern, apparently, is that they say using it for pain relief while pregnant could lead to a higher risk of autism in your children. Here's what Trump said when a reporter specifically asked about Tylenol and autism. This is on Air Force One last night.
I think it's a very big factor. And we want things to take effect immediately. Even if there's a question, you just do it, right?
Okay, so as you mentioned there's going to be more that's going to be heard in that news conference. But, Anis, what are we hearing then from the makers of Tylenol and the medical community?
So they've been responding to this for a while because there's been reporting and rumors that the U.S. feds would link Tylenol with autism for weeks. The company, Kenvue, and the general medical community at large have been pushing back. On the Tylenol parent company website, they say credible, independent scientific data continues to show no proven link between taking acetaminophen and autism. And a little more than 2 weeks ago, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said there is no clear evidence linking, quote, prudent use of Tylenol to the development of a fetus. And there are a lot of physicians and medical associations also pointing out, while there has been some research showing a possible correlation with higher autism rates and the use of Tylenol, there is also research that shows the opposite too. And correlation is not causation, says almost every researcher out there, including the ones speaking out on this.
The CBC's Anis Hadari for us in Washington. Anis, thank you for this.
You bet.
Canada's major banks, tech companies, and law enforcement are teaming up to fight fraudsters. The Canadian Anti-Scam Coalition aims to combat financial scams targeting Canadians. But as the CBC's Sophia Harris reports, some critics say the country's first cross-sector coalition fails to address a big part of the problem.
To the tune of eerie music, a video tells Canadians about the rising problem of financial scams and that a new anti-scam coalition, which includes the big banks, is fighting back. The coalition plans to soon launch an educational campaign, but several victims of bank fraud told CBC News they feel the coalition's efforts fall short because it doesn't address refunds for the victims.
So awareness campaigns are important, but they only go so far.
In June, Jessica Fraser of Timmins, Ontario, got a call from a man who said he was with TD Bank's fraud department. He told Fraser her bank account had been compromised, so she needed to follow his instructions to safeguard her money. By the time the call was over, the fraudster had made off with $10,000.
I don't even know if I have words for how I felt. Devastating.
TD refused to reimburse Fraser, telling her she was responsible for what happened.
And I trusted them to safeguard me, and instead I'm left carrying the burden.
The Anti-Scam Coalition says it aims to stop fraudsters before they steal Canadians' cash. But consumer advocate Sylvie de Belleville warns scams are ever evolving.
That scammers will change their scheme, will get more sophisticated schemes.
In Canada, there are no legislative requirements for banks to reimburse victims of scams involving banking transactions. Ottawa has proposed more protections for victims, but couldn't provide an update on when any changes may take effect. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everybody. It is Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio on CBC, live in downtown Winnipeg, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and YouTube. It's going to be sunny today and a high of 24, so we're going to return to some pretty warm stuff for the next few weeks. Abby will fill us in a moment. We're starting right now in downtown Winnipeg with a clear sky and a temperature of 13. This hour on the program, as talk of expansion of a Churchill port evolves in this province, so does concern. We're going to hear from a man who grew up hunting along the northern coast in Manitoba about what the expansion could mean for communities and for wildlife populations that depend on that. So stay tuned. Also, we are going to talk about music streamers this hour, like Apple and Spotify. They're pushing back in attempts to regulate Canadian content on their platforms. We have a tech journalist on about how that's playing out at all this week's talks for the CRTC hearings. The Canadian Radio and Television Commission hearings are ongoing. So that's coming up all in this half hour. Right now, let's go to Josh Crabb, who's in with our Manitoba headlines this morning. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. A Manitoba woman who hurt her knee last year wants to know why wait times for MRI scans are getting longer, not shorter. Provincial data suggests the median wait for the test is now nearly 6 months, the longest it's been since at least 2019. Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. And as you'll be hearing on Information Radio and in World Report, Jewish and Palestinian Manitobans are reacting to Canada's decision to recognize the state of Palestine. The Prime Minister's office says the decision is a path to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. Your next local CBC News is at 6:30.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
To that point that Josh was making there, 20 to 7 this morning, we will hear a conversation with Richard Robertson just in fuller detail here. So that's, of course, the Director of Research and Advocacy for B'nai B'rith Canada, you might know. So we have that coming up, and we also have more follows on this and balance throughout the program as well. So that's coming up through the show. Right now, though, let's plug into what is going to be a pretty beautiful week, Abby, for the last week of September.
I tell you, Marcy, after that wet weekend we got, it's going to be more like a beautiful week as we're going to see like 1, 2, 3, 4 days of really, really lovely sunshine, mostly bring in some warmth and some sunny conditions will be coming our way. We get to see foggy conditions also in the mornings in a lot of areas. Like today, we have fog spotted in a lot of regions across the province, and that should lift as we get into the morning. However, the humidity will be sticking around through the afternoon. Right now, Winnipeg, 13 degrees, clear skies we do have, but the humidity is making it feel a bit sticky as you start your day. Those fog patches you woke up to this morning in some areas will definitely lift, and it's going to fade away, leaving us with mainly sunny conditions for the rest of the day. We'll see our temperatures climb to around 24, 25. In other regions, we're seeing 10 to 12 down south, warming up to 25, and up north, we're seeing temperatures between 11 and 15 at this time. So from north to south, we're looking at warm and humid conditions with foggy conditions also giving way to sunshine. Winnipeg right now, 13, warming up to 24.
Right? Like totally sticky. Yesterday was totally sticky and humid.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'll feel like 30 today, as you said, here in Winnipeg. I don't think I dressed well for this. I got jeans on. I got my boots on.
Marcy.
I know. You look at you and you're like nice palm shirt.
Still hanging on to the last lap of summer.
Yeah. Except today, fall arrives.
I know fall arrives.
I think 1:36 is the actual. They give you a time, right?
Yep.
Because of the equinox and everything. So
the equinox.
This afternoon it'll be fall, but we'll be basking in sun. All right. Let's find out what's going on in the commute. Corey Funk has popped in. How you doing?
Hello. Good. It's a very quiet commute so far. I haven't heard of any major issues out there. But here's the number if you do see an issue. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, as you heard, we're going to start the show up around Churchill because we are taking the conversation to the north, where recent discussions are ongoing about proposals to expand the port of Churchill. This didn't make the first list of the Prime Minister's priorities, but he says it's potentially going to be in the next wave. Now, those plans to expand the port of Churchill are causing concerns for some people and also for thousands of belugas that live in the Western Hudson Bay, people that advocate for them. Plans for the port expansion, as I mentioned, didn't make the nation-building infrastructure projects, but upgrades are also expected to be considered in the next wave, even if it's not something larger. So what are those upgrades and how will they affect wildlife? Premier Bob Canoe has promoted the idea of expanding the port along the province's coastline as a major northern trade corridor. But Johnny Mamgark is concerned. Johnny grew up in Arviat Nunavut and remembers hunting belugas as early as 13 or 14 years old. He now lives in Winnipeg. CBC's Justin Fianconi spoke with Mamgark to hear what concerns may come up for northern communities.
Recently, there's been some talk of the port of Churchill being expanded by government and to be more of an export hub. How concerned are you about that potential and the impact it could have on the beluga population along the coast, affecting your community?
I've been thinking of that, like I think it's going to have a big impact on the whales, the estuary. Like if you look at Montreal and look at St. Lawrence River, there were belugas in St. Lawrence, right? They're gone. Think of it that way. What has happened to Churchill River? That's one thing I'm concerned about. Like all these ships going back and forth between Churchill and Europe or anywhere else, it's going to have a hard impact on the whales, not just the whales, but the seals and the polar bears. So, to tell you the truth, I'm in between. I would love to have people that have that port expanded for us in the northern community to get our stuff like across to Canada in a better way instead of going to Montreal, but also it's going to affect our wildlife. So it's good and bad both ways, I believe.
Do you feel that this might in any way threaten your community's way of life?
I think it will affect us. Because they don't like noise. When they hear noise, they move. Look at us. We built a road in our community up the road, to the lake. Our migration is gone. We don't get any more caribou migration. That's what happened. When we start making all that noise, the caribou move further up north to migrate. It's going to do the same with the whales. So they're going to have probably a different route going up north. So it will affect the communities up north.
Is there any like stories that you have that, maybe there's been a nice moment between you and your family members with beluga whales, or is there anything that comes to mind when I mention the word beluga whales?
When we used to go down to Hubbard to hunt, first time of the year, that would be the best time. We would have family go down that way to hunt just before Churchill. Because Hubbard Point is where there's all kind of animals. You will see whales, you will see polar bears, you will see seals, you will see caribou, like it's all there. And that's where we usually hunt in the springtime when the ice goes out. Okay. And that's really close to Churchill, and that's where we're just about a couple miles at Sea River,
Yeah.
And that's where all the belugas give birth and molt and stay there for the summer, and they migrate up north. They will affect us.
So what about your community's way of life and their relationship with the belugas? Can we learn from a tourist perspective or a southerner's perspective? What can we learn from your relationship with Arctic life, wildlife?
It means everything to us. Like it's our food out there. We hunt to eat. And we want people to understand, or the people down south, that we don't just kill, we hunt to eat. We take just enough. We don't overkill. We take what we want and what we need, but just before the fall, before the winter, we get enough for the winter also. So we want people to understand that we're not just killing animals. We're feeding ourselves and putting food on our table. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
This expansion, I think it's good for everybody, I guess. Like, it's going to create a lot of jobs, and for the people of Churchill, it wouldn't probably good money, but it's also going to affect the people along the coast. The Inuit, they depend on sea mammals for food. I think that's something we have to discuss between Manitoba and the Inuit, like if all this ship went back and forth, and what if the whales disappear like St. Lawrence, like in the future? What next?
That is CBC's Justin Fiacconi speaking with Johnny Mamgark, expressing some concerns about what might happen with the wildlife and the whales specifically, although he also mentioned polar bears and the seals. If the Port of Churchill, if and when the Port of Churchill is expanded or changed, that is not in the first tranche of the list that the Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, put out, but it is being considered for the second wave of projects. If you live up in Churchill and you listen to the show and you want to weigh in, you can always call our listener line. It's the same all over the province, 204-788-3205.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world, staying on top of stories around the globe, and connected close to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Oh, Monday. Getting through September, by the way. Fall officially begins today, this afternoon. It's the last full week of this month. So thanks for joining us to start your week. It is clear and 13 degrees this Monday morning in downtown Winnipeg. Little fog in Brandon, 7 degrees in Calm. That's the cold spot in Manitoba at 7 degrees. Fog patches up in Churchill, and Thompson. And it is 11 degrees in Thompson to start your day. Well, if you are a longtime fan of Canadian music, you probably don't need any encouragement to listen to your favorite artists. But the reason you got to know them in the first place might have something to do with the Canadian content broadcast rules. They've been in place since the 1970s. But now with so many of us getting our music through streaming services like Apple and Amazon and Spotify, the CRTC, Canadian Radio and Television Commission, is looking at how to update those regulations. Hearings run all week about how to best implement the new Online Streaming Act. Joining us to talk about it is Shruti Shaker, Editor-in-Chief of Android Central, an online technology publication and contributor to CBC. Hi there, Shruti.
Good morning.
So it's funny, I remember when they implemented the rules, right? All the Gordon Lightfoot in the early 80s on the radio, all my AM. I know all the Canadian tunes because of those regulations. What's the CRT's approach going to be here?
Well, first and foremost, we need to modernize that act. Like you said, those rules are super old, so we need to modernize them. And part of that is getting online streamers to do something, because right now there's really no rules towards them. There were rules that were placed in 2024, but then they were halted because the streamers were not happy. And that rule at that time, which is what we're going to be discussing during these hearings, is what percentage of their revenue should they be delivering to a fund of sorts to creators in Canada. And so the CRTC is saying it should be a 5% of their revenue, but that could change. We don't know. And then, of course, we're also looking at traditional broadcasters in terms of what quota that they have to do towards producing Canadian content or streaming Canadian content on the airs. Right now, it's at 35%. They're saying we need to change that.
What are the streamers saying in response?
They're not happy. Are we surprised? No, they're definitely saying that they shouldn't have to pay because they already pay a hefty amount of royalties towards Canadian creators and those who are streaming in Canada and making music. So they're saying, well, why should we be coughing up more money towards a fund? It doesn't make sense, which is quite hilarious for them to say because some of their revenues is larger than some GDPs of some countries. But the fact of the matter is that they're saying they shouldn't have to cough up that money.
Traditional broadcasters obviously have been subject to CanCon rules, as we've alluded to, for years. So what's their position on this issue then?
So they are saying, like I said earlier, want to reduce that 35% quota because they're saying, look, we didn't have the internet back in the day when you created these rules, but now the internet's here, online streamers are here, and we're suffering, like, and rightfully so, right? Like, it's a lot easier to pick up your phone, hit Spotify, and find an artist, these days. And so they're saying, you need to reduce the rules for us a little bit. We can't be producing 35%. Can you reduce it to 25% or 10%? Like, there has to be some kind of change. And that's also, again, coming from a very, very competitive field now, dealing with these online streamers.
Smaller independent artists will be affected, of course, through all of this. What would you say? Who would you say, though, this matters to the most, all of these changes?
Those small creators, because let's be real, Justin Bieber and Drake don't need more money. I mean, they're going to say, give me more money, but really this rule isn't applying to them because they have the studios, they have the money, they have the ability, they have the access to those tools that have made them successful, and that's why they are where they are. But this is really going to affect those smaller creators, right? Like, it's like basically saying, here, I'm going to give you, a studio, but I'm not going to give you anything else. I'm not going to give you any tools. I'm not going to, help you with funding. You have to figure all that out. And that's what they're dealing with, because how are they going to be the next Justin Bieber or the next Drake or the next Tate McRae, right? Like, they need some kind of help and assistance to get to that level. And so this really will affect them if things don't work out.
Can you elaborate a bit on what's happening with the states in this? Because Canada's been under pressure from the United States to scrap the Online Streaming Act, which is what these hearings pertain to as well. So what are the main challenges ahead for the actual legislation?
Yeah, we're seeing that as well. And that's partly coming from the current administration in the US. President Donald Trump really likes things done a certain way. And we're seeing the effects of that with the cancellation of programs like Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert. Like, that is seriously affecting, what's happening down south. And they do not want this to happen in the US, because they're saying, well, if you're going to put a certain percentage of funds coming out of these big streamers, well, it's going to affect, how we work together. Already there's a trade dispute. There's stuff that's coming out of that. And they're saying, well, we're contributing to the economy. You shouldn't have to deal with putting these penalties or these funds on these online streamers. And the question is will we abide by that? Will we succumb to it? I think time will tell, but I have always been under the impression that Canada will always do what is best for Canadians, but time will tell, and that's what these hearings are for, and a decision would be made, and hopefully we get something good out of it.
Appreciate you always on the air with your analysis and expertise. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shruti Shaker with us, Editor-in-Chief of Android Central, an online technology publication.
Opaskwayak Cree Nation, let's talk. CBC wants to get to know you a little better. I'm Felicia Adam. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to OCN September 27th to October 1st. What do you want us to know about your community? What stories are we missing? I can't wait to meet you. Communities in Focus. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Hello, Steinbach. CBC News is coming to town for a special live across Canada broadcast with me. I'm Heather Hiscox. It's Thursday, September the 25th at 8 a.m. We hope you'll join us at the Southeast Events Centre. We'll have a live broadcast with a national spotlight on Steinbach, followed by a power brunch and a special Q&A session. So visit cbc.ca/Manitoba and go to the community section to learn more.
So that's coming up already, right? On Thursday, Heather Hiscox is going to be in Steinbach. Lots to talk about in that community. It'll be nice to see Heather. She's, of course, on this tour because of her retirement coming up, as she said there. 13 degrees calm, clear in Winnipeg right now. If you need us in traffic, 788-3093. Coming up, we have business news with Hallie Cotnam, who will join us live after 6:30 in our local news with our report. Today, she's talking about a proposed merger that would create a $70 billion copper mining giant. It is, though, hitting some turbulence, so we're going to find out more about that. Also, she has a story about the price of gold and a crime that might be connected to the price of gold. And she'll update us on the latest travel trends. So there's a whole bunch of things trending right now around winter getaways. People already have their minds there, although I have to say, in Winnipeg and across Manitoba this week, it's not going to be a place to escape. It looks like we're going to have some beautiful days ahead. We'll get into your regional forecast right after your CBC Winnipeg News.
14 degrees downtown. With mist in Norway House, it's 13 degrees there, partly cloudy, and 11 in Tuduli Lake. The annual median wait time for an MRI in Manitoba is at its longest in at least 6 years. Provincial data suggests the wait for a scan is now almost 6 months. The Canadian Association of Medical Radiation Technologists says aging equipment, an aging population, and staff burnout could all be factors. But the association's Dana McTaggart says so too could be the way MRI technologists are trained. She suggests making training programs more accessible.
Typically, it involves you resigning from your position or taking a leave to immerse yourself full-time in study. And it's also leading some MRTs in Manitoba to investigate distance education options elsewhere.
Health Minister Uzoma Asaguera says the Manitoba government is working with post-secondary institutions to fast-track training. Red River College Polytech currently offers the only MRI program in Manitoba. It hopes to finish a review of its MRI program this year. Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. Most of the 32 deaths and 102 major injuries cite gaps and delays in care as contributing factors. Manitoba Nurses Union President Darlene Jackson says some of these incidents could have been prevented with proper oversight and more staff.
If your patient load is, sometimes double what we would consider to be a safe patient load, then it's almost impossible to keep your eyes on that patient often enough to be able to pick up on those small nuances and deal with them quickly.
Jackson says the province must set minimum nurse-patient ratios to help ease the pressure on staff. The government recently set up a committee to help establish those targets. U.S. President Donald Trump paid tribute to Alberta supporters of Charlie Kirk at a memorial yesterday for the conservative activist.
In Calgary, Canada, thousands gathered at City Hall to sing the American national anthem and raise up posters with the name Charlie Kirk.
Kirk was shot and killed while speaking at a university in Utah September 10th. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is now charged with murder. If convicted, he could be sentenced to die. Quebec Premier François Legault says his government will be tabling legislation aimed at speeding up the environmental process for major construction projects. He says big projects need to get off the ground faster, and that means doing away with environmental approvals that can often take years. Legault says the legislation will mirror the federal government's major projects initiative known as Bill C-5. Jewish and Palestinian Manitobans are reacting to Canada's decision to recognize the state of Palestine. The Prime Minister's office says the decision is a path to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. Emma Feinblatt says a part of Manitoba Friends of Standing Together, an activist group made up of people who are Jewish and Palestinian. With family in Israel, the move by Canada for her is a positive step forward.
I want them to be safe, and I don't think that the escalation of violence, that the invasion of Gaza makes them safer. And I think that the government of Israel right now is not acting in the interest of the citizens of Israel. It's not making them safer. It's not securing their prosperity in the future.
Alongside Canada, Australia, the UK, and Portugal have also announced they would recognize the state of Palestine. And the Winnipeg Jets opened their preseason schedule with a game at home against the Minnesota Wild.
The Salamon's a quick shot, loose in front, Barron scores!
Jets forward Morgan Barron opening the scoring to give Winnipeg the early lead. The Jets led 2-1 with under 3 minutes in the third before Minnesota scored a power play goal to force the game into overtime. Yakov Trenin's second goal of the game in the extra frame lifted the Wild to a 3-2 come-from-behind win. Daniil Zilkin had the other goal for the Jets. Winnipeg hosts the Edmonton Oilers Tuesday night in continued preseason action at Canada Life Centre. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Josh. Josh Crabb is live in our news center this morning, filling in for Heather Wells. 6:35 a.m. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on CBC. Thanks for joining us. Monday morning, Abby.
I know it still feels like summer, I must
What is
tell you.
going
I know
on?
officially fall begins in the afternoon, so I guess summer is still trying to say, you know what, I'm going to hold on to things for like the next couple of days.
Gorgeous, which is good because I don't think my brain is holding on. I don't know how anyone else is doing this September, but it's a real thing, right? This whole pressure somehow and busy and all the things and the stuff and I don't know. It's kind
I
of.
think it comes with fall, that race towards the end of the calendar year is always like, you know what, we just have to pace up.
Remember COVID when we were all gonna get rid of the hustle culture and relax?
True. Relax.
Humanity, we never did it. We just
Life,
all
my
decided.
friend.
I know. All right. Well, at least if you're going to be out and about, as Abby alluded to, it's going to be really nice. This
It's
week.
going to be really nice. Looking at all the numbers in front of me, Marcy, I must tell you, even Churchill will warm up to the 20s today. We've not seen Churchill in that range in a long time. Most of the regions on this Monday will definitely get to the range of the 20s. We're looking at mostly warm and sunny day with just some fog patches. If you check the tracker there, you'd see some fog patches here and there. That should give way to clear skies this morning, and then the sun will make its appearance. We're looking at the clear conditions in Winnipeg at this time. Temperatures hovering around 12 and 13 degrees. We'll see mainly sunny skies today after these fog patches on the edge of the city dissipates, and then it's going to warm up to about 24. With the humidity factored in for the city today, it will be feeling around 30, 31. So you might want to hydrate, and those foggy conditions will definitely redevelop overnight into tomorrow morning. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, foggy conditions there. That should leave this morning also. Then you see a mix of sun and clouds. We're seeing temperatures between 11 and 12 in some areas. They're warming up to 24 and humid, just like Winnipeg. In the Westman region from Brandon towards Nipawin, also a foggy stat at about 8 to 10 degrees at this time. But that will fade away, and then it's going to give way to some sunshine and a bit of cloud in the mix at some points. You see temperatures climb to 25. The humidity is also be in the range of the 30s this morning, 30, 31. Over in the Parkland region, Duff and Russell, Roblin, surrounding communities, we're looking at temperatures hover between 9 and 11 degrees at this time. Expect a mix of sun and clouds after these fog patches lift, and then we'll see more like temperatures get to around 26. Also going to be feeling humid in that region. Good morning to our friends in Gimli. For the Interlake region, we're seeing 16 degrees there at this time. Expect a mostly sunny day. We saw some fog and some misty conditions earlier, but that should dissipate, and then it's going to leave you with a warm and humid afternoon. You warm up to 22 for Gimli today. Tracking conditions now into the northern part of the province. We're looking at the path from surrounding communities all the way towards Gillam. We're seeing cloudy start there. Temperatures around 15 degrees at this time. Expect sunny conditions and a mix of sunny by the midday and a mix of cloud by the midday period. Those foggy conditions will lift, and we'll see you warm up to 23. Thompson is seeing morning fog also. That should clear, giving way to a mix of sun and clouds, and then temperature will get to 22. Currently, you are at 12 degrees. Churchill and the York region, we're looking at a mainly sunny day ahead, Marcy. It's starting clear there. It's going to build up. You're going to warm up to 24. And for once, I'm going to tell you the humidity will be felt in Churchill, not like the cool days you've been getting below the 15s and the 10s you get there. You get to 24, 25 today. So from the southern region, tracking it all the way up north, we're going to see warmer, humid conditions, lots of sunshine breaking through and some cloud. It's more like I'll call it a tropical day, Marcy.
It is a little bit. People are going to see on YouTube, my glasses are going to steam up. You can already see the bottom of the lines. One year I did election coverage. Actually, it was our last provincial election. And they in the control room, they kept saying, "Are your glasses steaming up?" In my ear, I'm like, "Yes, I'm trying." Anyway, humidity. It does that, folks. Corey Funk, what was it like out this morning when you were biking in?
It was lovely. I risked it. I wore shorts, and it paid off.
Pay off, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Shorts and sweater season is back. I thought it was over, but here we are. Otherwise, though, it's been a pretty quiet commute. Haven't heard of any major issues out there. But if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Let's get to business news now on CBC this morning. 89.3 FM. Hallie Cottenham joins us now with our report. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So a proposed merger, let's start there, that would create a $70 billion copper mining giant is, I understand, in some trouble. What's happening?
Yeah, this is that proposed merger between Canada's Teck Resources and Anglo American, based in the UK. If they succeed in this merger, it would make the 5th largest copper mining company in the world. The industry minister is going to meet with the CEOs of both companies this week to talk about the deal, which cannot proceed until Mélanie Joly agrees that it would be of net economic benefit to Canada. And so far, she says, Anglo's commitments don't go far enough. Prime Minister Mark Carney getting involved as well, according to the Globe and Mail. He told Anglo the deal wouldn't be possible unless it commits to moving its global headquarters here. The Anglo CEO says the company will not move its legal home to Canada, nor will it switch its primary listing from London to the Toronto Stock Exchange. That's not the only roadblock, Marcy. A First Nations chief in the southern BC interior says he's concerned about the proposed merger, which includes a plan to expand a smelter in Trail, BC, to add copper refining to the existing lead and zinc production. Chief Clarence Louis of the Osoyoos Indian Band says that could have a major impact on First Nations, who should be consulted before it gets government approval.
Let's move to another story. This one's about the price of gold and a crime that might be connected.
Yeah, the price of gold has absolutely skyrocketed. It set a record last week of more than $3,700 US an ounce. That's up 40% this year alone. And that might have provided a motive for a crime in Cairo. A 3,000-year-old bracelet has been stolen from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's been melted down for gold. The bracelet belonged to an ancient pharaoh. I saw a picture of it. Marcy, it's absolutely stunning, or should I say it was absolutely stunning. Egyptian authorities say it was stolen earlier this month. 4 suspects have been arrested, including a museum restoration specialist, and police released surveillance footage over the weekend showing a shop owner weighing the bracelet before handing cash to one of the suspects. That bracelet then got passed through a series of dealers and eventually melted down by a goldsmith who turned it into new pieces of jewelry. This whole story has Egyptians outraged and calling for tighter security of the nation's antiquities.
Oh, stories like that, right? You never get that back.
No.
You also have a story this morning about the latest travel trends.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but my feed is awash in offers for sunny winter getaways. I guess the algorithm has me pegged. But there is a new trend, a series of trends which I caught, which was, first of all, the rise of cooler vacations as in temperature. People are Google Trends reporting a 300% increase in searches for cooler holidays like Iceland and Baltic states and Scandinavia. Then there's a trend called set jetting as opposed to jet setting.
What's that?
Set jetting is traveling to a location where a favorite book is set or maybe where your favorite show or movie is filmed. So I'm not sure if you're a fan of White Lotus, but it has destinations, people looking into Hawaii and Sicily and Phuket and Bangkok because they like the show and they want to go see where it was filmed. Another trend, astrotourism. I'm sure you've talked about this on your show, coming out to see the northern lights in the north or in Iceland or the Faroe Islands, or stargazing in light deserts in Jordan and Oman and Argentina.
Churchill.
Or Churchill, right?
We get lots of international visitors for that here, actually.
No doubt, no doubt. And there's another trend, the return of the travel agent. According to Bloomberg, the number of people who identify as travel agents on LinkedIn has surged by more than 50% in the last 3 years. Bloomberg cites an explosion of boomers who have the money to travel, but perhaps want help or can afford to get help navigating the logistics. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
This is a destination that absolutely wasn't on my radar. It's a tour available of a remote community in Hawaii. It's resuming this month for the first time since the pandemic. The tour is of a colony on Molokai called Kalaupapa, where leprosy patients were banished for more than a century, starting in 1866. Thousands died there from the disease, but several of the priests and nuns who cared for them on Kalaupapa have been canonized. So now religious pilgrims are drawn there. 6 former patients still live in the colony. All of them are cured, and all of them are over the age of 80, including the woman who started the tours with the community's blessing.
That's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
You want to go to that one with a mic, though.
Yeah.
That's my reporter hat, right?
Yeah.
Interviewing those
Look
people
at
would
you.
be amazing.
See, now I don't see that as being on my list this year. No.
You know
not
what?
so much.
My husband and I went to see the bog people preserved from the bogs as they were on tour in the museums. We went to Calgary one year. So I love anything like that that's got like pieces of living history for us to learn from.
I
ahead.
was thinking of, talking about set jetting. My family and I were at a hockey tournament in Toronto, and we sought out Kim's Convenience Store.
Oh, yeah,
You know, the real one.
That I would do too. All right, Hallie, thank you.
Okay, I can talk more, but that's good. You take care.
Save
Marcy.
it for tomorrow.
Talk to you in the fall.
Right? Fall arrives this afternoon, but Hallie will be back tomorrow. Make no mistake, she's here with our business news. Prime Minister Mark Carney's released a statement Sunday morning that Canada now officially recognizes the state of Palestine, as you've been hearing in the news. Australia, the UK, and Portugal also made similar announcements yesterday in hopes of preserving the possibility of a two-state solution. Now, Richard Robertson is Director of Research and Advocacy for B'nai B'rith Canada, a Jewish human rights organization. He spoke with CBC's Lauren Scott yesterday, and she asked him what his initial reaction was upon hearing Canada's recognition of Palestine as a state.
Yeah, it's the position of B'nai B'rith Canada that this is a dangerously premature decision. We believe that it is based on assertions from the Palestinian Authority that simply they are incapable of meeting at this time. The Palestinian Authority has demonstrated time and time again that they are not interested in taking the necessary steps to create democratic reform, to de-radicalize, and to demilitarize in advance of creating a future Palestinian state.
And when you say that you feel that this is premature, can you expand on that?
A two-state solution is the only solution to bring about lasting peace in the Middle East. However, it must be done at a time when both the Palestinian people and the Israeli state are capable of coming to the table, and that requires a democratic Palestinian state that is capable of negotiating with the Israeli state. And right now, that is not what we have. We have a Gaza Strip that is still controlled largely by Hamas, and we have a Palestinian Authority that has historically demonstrated that it is incapable of leading a democratic Palestinian state.
Carney said earlier today as well that the recognition of statehood is dependent on a democratic state. What are your thoughts?
This was not conditional recognition. The Prime Minister said it from the outset that he was relying on promises made by Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority. Yet the Palestinian Authority has demonstrated that its promises are not worth the paper they're written on.
The Israeli embassy in Canada as well today said that it was deeply disappointed and is calling for a reversal. Curious to your position on that.
If Canada wants to show leadership in creating a peaceful Middle East where a two-state solution enables Israelis and Palestinians to lead side by side, then it must do its part to ensure that when it recognizes a Palestinian state, it's a Palestinian state capable of upholding its responsibilities towards a two-state solution, and that it's not what we have at this present time. And so the Canadian government is actually doing a disservice towards fostering peace in the Middle East.
Can you tell me a little bit about those responsibilities that you mentioned about kind of upholding peace in the region?
Until the Palestinian Authority has demonstrated that they are capable of the democratic reforms that they have promised, until they have demonstrated that they are capable of de-radicalization, until they have demonstrated that they are capable of demilitarization within the Palestinian territories, then it is premature to recognize the Palestinian state and to recognize the Palestinian Authority as the governing body within the Palestinian state.
Netanyahu said that the Palestinian state will not happen. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that there are serious questions about whether or not the PA is capable of actuating on its promises at this point. I think that it's fair to question whether or not the PA is capable of holding democratic elections, whether or not they're capable of winning those democratic elections, whether they're capable of demilitarizing some of the militant groups within the Palestinian territories at this time. And they've also shown no interest in undertaking the reforms necessary for de-radicalization, including within their education system.
Because you've mentioned this a few times, that they've shown no interest. Can you expand on that?
Certainly. The Palestinian Authority has not held elections in over a decade. Why all of a sudden now we are taking them at face value that they will hold those elections and that those elections will be democratic? That raises serious questions. The Palestinian Authority has promised to reform its education curriculum, its curriculum that right now is recognized of inciting hatred and actually is not conducive of working towards a de-radicalized society. They've shown no appetite for reforming that, despite making previous promises to the international world, to the European Union, that they would go about doing so. So why now all of a sudden we're putting our faith in a regime that has time and time again broken its own promises? It raises serious questions.
That's Richard Robertson, the Director of Research and Advocacy for B'nai B'rith Canada. He was speaking to the CBC's Lauren Scott. Now, we have more coverage of this coming up after 7 o'clock. Canada recognizing Palestine's statehood. We'll have a closer look at what that means with a guest and some analysis after 7. Also, World Report is coming up between now and then. It is 10 to 7. World Report's on at 7. Right now, though, you're with Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Thanks for being with us this Monday morning. Let's get into another topic, and it's something that actually you might be thinking about now that the work week is back. Do you ever skip lunch? Or do you eat at your desk? Now, it might seem like a time saver to skip lunch or have something quick, but experts say it can drain your energy and your focus. And even taking a few minutes for a proper bite can help you stay sharp for the rest of the afternoon. To talk about this, Laura Baum is with us. She's registered dietitian with Laura B Nutrition, and she joins us via Zoom. Hi there.
Hi, good morning.
So why do so many people skip lunch?
I think there's so much pressure in our day, right? There's so much pressure with deadlines and deliverables and our to-do list and everything that we want to get done. And unfortunately, people give up lunch and don't understand the importance of it.
And I mentioned eating at your desk. Is that still considered giving up lunch?
It's better than skipping, but it's not my most recommended favorite thing. You know, if we can take a few minutes, even just to stretch at our desk or get up or go for a little walk, that would be great. Sit in a lunchroom, eat outside, but obviously do what we can. And if we have to sit at our desk, at least try to sit up straight and take a few deep breaths and maybe shut off your computer while you're eating.
Tell me a bit about what happens to that energy and focus if people aren't taking that proper break as you describe.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Our energy and focus actually decreases. Our brain needs fuel and our brain needs food, as simple as that, to deliver and to handle kind of the day. And so when we don't give our brain what it needs, then dare I say we get hangry and we lose our focus and our stress starts to get up and starts to increase and we're not as productive or efficient as we could be.
Do you think that some people are skipping because of the cost of living pressures, perhaps, as well?
Perhaps if someone tends to go out and like eat out all the time or grab food at restaurants, but if you plan well and stick to your budget, which you would do if you're kind of trying to stick to a food budget, then incorporate lunches in there. You know, if you're going to make lunches for your kids, try to do the same for yourself. And even if it's just a few snacks or a simple sandwich, that can be really cost effective.
Give us some ideas. I never skip lunch, by the way. I'm always put food in my body for energy. But I'm wondering for somebody that often does this and says, oh, can you help with where to start so that they can change their habit maybe?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think something that's quite easy could be like a turkey sandwich on whole grain bread, a baggie or a Tupperware of raw veggies on the side, or like a tuna sandwich or leftovers that you could even warm up, like anything that's kind of quick and easy that you could just take with you to get started. A little bit of high fiber carbohydrates for long lasting energy, protein for fullness, and fruit and veggies if we can.
Just last, what's the role of workplaces in making this happen?
Really good question. They have to be very supportive into, the health and wellness of their employees. They have to try to perhaps encourage no meetings over the lunch hour, trying to support walk and talks and taking breaks when you can and putting reminders or alarms in your calendar to try to take the time for this. And dare I say, even a stipend maybe for some groceries or for some team lunches.
Thanks for your time, Laura.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Laura Baum reminding people to have lunch today, registered dietitian with Laura B Nutrition. This tune will help you maybe. I think a lot of us judge ourselves. I mean to have lunch, but I can't get ahead of my day. Here's Vivek Shriya. And am I doing enough? Vivek Shreya with her song, Am I Doing Enough? That's actually around a question around, she says she wrote it because she asks herself, there's this ache of forever falling short, and am I doing enough to make the world a better place? Which I think is just one of those sentiments that a lot of people as human beings have looking around in 2025. World Report's coming up, by the way, in 3 minutes from now at 7 o'clock. Well, let's get into our local news this morning and find out who's making news in Manitoba. Josh Krabs, pop back in. Good morning.
Good morning. The annual median wait time for an MRI in Manitoba is at its longest in at least 6 years. Provincial data suggests the wait for a scan is now almost 6 months. In other healthcare news, Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries compared to the previous year. And Canada's decision to recognize the state of Palestine was marked here in Winnipeg at the 4th annual Run for Palestine yesterday. We'll hear from reaction from people who took part about the move. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
So we're going to have a piece of that story as well with some analysis coming up. Also on the MRI story, that story in our news is part of a series we're running on the show called Vital Signs. Rosanna Hempel will be in studio to walk us through what she understands about MRI weights and some more detail coming up. Plus, something fun. You might have heard about a cat in Steinbach named Dory, who's making their big film debut. She's featured in the new movie that's out this week, The Long Walk, based on Stephen King's novel. I read it years ago. I got to reread it, or maybe I'll go see the movie next. But it was all shot here in Manitoba. The cat is part of it. In the next hour, we're going to get to know this movie star feline and find out why this sweet cat got involved in the movie. It's clear in 13 in Winnipeg right now. In Brandon, foggy in 7. It's calm in terms of wind condition. You're the cold spot still. And there's fog patches up in Thompson, and it's 11 degrees. It's going to be nice this week. Beautiful top to bottom of our province and east to west. Mainly sunny right now in Winnipeg for Winnipeg's forecast, and our high for the day is going to be 24 degrees. Thanks for being with us. World Report is next on 89.3 FM in a moment.
On the Current.
And I hear this weird sound, tick, tick, tick. That is a sound a bear makes with their jaw, and it means you're too close.
Texada Island, off the coast of British Columbia, hasn't seen a giant predator in a century. So when a grizzly bear swam ashore and moved in, the community was thrown into crisis and conflict. The story of Tex the bear coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth. The international push to recognize the state of Palestine is not over. Canada, the UK, Portugal, and Australia all made the formal recognition yesterday. And today, France is poised to do the same. But Israel's response has been to threaten annexation of more of the West Bank. As Satra Petrusik reports, a ceasefire in Gaza is no closer to becoming reality.
On the road out of Gaza City, escaping Israel's ground assault is top of mind. But ask about more world recognition for a Palestinian state, and Mansour Jundia gets angry. We hope the countries are sincere, he says, and it's not all just for show. The show of supporting Palestine is gathering steam, with many leaders at a summit hosted by France and Saudi Arabia today. French President Emmanuel Macron and others declaring recognition as a way of promoting a two-state future and preventing Israel from annexing all Palestinian land.
If you accept de facto Israel to displace these people, you will never see a day after.
This follows similar announcements by Canada and 3 other countries yesterday. Israel has responded forcefully.
לא תקום מדינה פלסטינית ממערב לירדן.
With Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying there will be no Palestinian state and vowing to annex more and more of the occupied West Bank. He's under pressure from Jewish settlers to take it all now. But there is risk in that. Israel has prospered from better relations with several Arab states under a deal called the Abraham Accords. The most prominent of these countries, the UAE, says annexation may end that cooperation. Minister Lana Nusebe.
That is why we came on record saying that annexation is a red line for my government, because it strikes at the very heart of what the Abraham Accords were meant to achieve.
Netanyahu says he will decide Israel's next steps after meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump this week. Sasha Petrosic, CBC News, Jerusalem.
High winds and heavy rains from Super Typhoon Regasa are hitting parts of the Philippines. The northeastern province of Cagayan is bearing the brunt of the storm as it hovers over the South China Sea. Thousands of people have been forced to evacuate their communities, and authorities warn of severe flooding, landslides, and life-threatening storm surges. Hundreds of people in eastern Taiwan have also had to leave their homes. Several trails and forest areas have been shut down. And in Hong Kong, people are stocking up in preparation for the storm, gathering food supplies and water, with Regasa expected to continue its path towards South China. Now, to understand Regasa's strength, a super typhoon is considered to be equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane. Back here at home, it's been 10 years since a man made his way around a rural community in eastern Ontario, killing 3 women. He died in prison last year. And over the past decade, community members have worked to end gender-based violence in isolated communities across Canada. But despite an inquest that put out several recommendations, advocates say it's grassroots organizations, not Ontario's provincial government, that are putting in the work. Julie Ireton has more.
Take Back the Night 2025 winds through the streets of Killaloe in eastern Ontario. 10 years ago, this annual march was abruptly cancelled. It was set to take place the same day 3 local women were murdered.
Yeah, it does feel like it just happened yesterday.
Lori Norwood is the director of the Renfrew County Sexual Assault Centre.
It is still a very large sting within the community.
The news on September 22nd, 2015 was shocking. A man had driven to 3 different locations in this vast rural county to kill 3 women: Carol Colleton, Anastasia Kuzik, and Natalie Warmerdam. Malcolm Warmerdam's mother died that day. He's since become an activist.
I know a lot about the failures of our system and the holes and gaps.
The man convicted was known to police. An inquest called for more system accountability, better communication and intervention to keep women safe. Pamela Cross sits on Ontario's Domestic Violence Death Review Committee. She can't understand why the Ontario government hasn't implemented the inquest jury's first recommendation to declare intimate partner violence an epidemic.
The current government in Ontario likes to think it's doing all kinds of fabulous things. They're not doing anywhere near enough.
But 106 municipalities in Ontario have declared domestic violence an epidemic, and advocates say it's that commitment at the local level that gives them hope for change. Julie Ireton, CBC News, Renfrew County.
A pair of international students say they were told to campaign for a political party while attending a private college in British Columbia. The students say they were told that they needed to door knock for a Conservative MP during a federal by-election last December. And as John Hernandez reports, the students claim that it was a requirement for class credit.
I feel uncomfortable working for them.
Yasina Capet didn't enjoy her time at a Canadian private school. The Thai international student enrolled in a digital media course at Pacific Link College in Metro Vancouver. In December, there was an abrupt change to the curriculum.
We had to participate in the volunteer for the political party.
2 students came forward to CBC News alleging the school required their class to campaign for Conservative candidate Tamara Jansen during the 2024 by-election. Emails from the school say they had to work at the office for about 4 to 5 hours each day. Capet said campaign staff even took them out door knocking.
We feel like it didn't relate to the study, and we didn't know why we had to do this for them. We also didn't know who Tamara was.
The school says the campaign was voluntary. After pushing back, Capet says the college eventually allowed her not to attend. A second student from the class has filed a complaint against the school through provincial mediators. They're seeking a tuition refund over their participation in the campaign and the quality of the program. Balraj Kalan is representing them in the dispute.
Coming into a new country and pushing back against an institution is usually quite the challenge.
The college has responded to the dispute, denying the allegations. Jansen's office said it was unaware of the incident. The province wouldn't comment directly on the case. John Hernandez, CBC News, Surrey.
Instagram is testing AI in Canada to identify teens using adult accounts on its platform. The artificial intelligence model is being trained to spot which users are teenagers, even if they've listed an adult birthday. It will look at the dates when accounts were created, as well as interactions and content. If Instagram suspects that a teen is posing as an adult, it will place the user in a teen account. Instagram established teen accounts last year to limit who can contact younger account holders, as well as censor the content teens can see. Canada's major banks, meantime, tech companies and law enforcement are all teaming up to fight fraudsters. The Canadian Anti-Scam Coalition aims to combat financial scams targeting Canadians. But as CBC's Sophia Harris reports, some critics say the country's first cross-sector coalition fails to address a big part of the problem.
To the tune of eerie music, a video tells Canadians about the rising problem of financial scams and that a new anti-scam coalition, which includes the big banks, is fighting back. The coalition plans to soon launch an educational campaign, but several victims of bank fraud told CBC News they feel the coalition's efforts fall short because it doesn't address refunds for the victims.
So awareness campaigns are important, but they only go so far.
In June, Jessica Fraser of Timmins, Ontario, got a call from a man who said he was with TD Bank's fraud department. He told Fraser her bank account had been compromised, so she needed to follow his instructions to safeguard her money. By the time the call was over, the fraudster had made off with $10,000.
I don't even know if I have words for how I felt. Devastating.
TD refused to reimburse Fraser, telling her she was responsible for what happened.
And I trusted them to safeguard me, and instead I'm left carrying the burden.
The Anti-Scam Coalition says it aims to stop fraudsters before they steal Canadians' cash. But consumer advocate Sylvie de Belleville warns scams are ever evolving.
That scammers will change their scheme, will get more sophisticated schemes.
In Canada, there are no legislative requirements for banks to reimburse victims of scams involving banking transactions. Ottawa has proposed more protections for victims, but couldn't provide an update on when any changes may take effect. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Well, hello, everybody. Hopefully you had a great weekend. I'll tell you what, weather-wise, this is going to be one for the books. It's 13 degrees, beautiful clear sky in Winnipeg this morning. More in the forecast in a moment. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, here with our team at the morning show on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. This hour on the show, as the UN General Assembly gathers in New York, questions about Palestinian statehood and the prospect of a two-state solution hang in the air. We're going to get some analysis of that. We're also going to hear about people who showed up this weekend, about 450 of them running in support of Palestine. And we're going to hear a bit from the director of B'nai B'rith Canada this hour as well. So we've got that straight ahead. In addition, maybe you went to the movies this weekend. A lot of people are waiting for the Stephen King movie, well, based in his novel, the movie The Long Walk coming out. That's because they took their long walk here in Manitoba. We're going to meet Dory the cat, who's also in this film. A local feline who's about to make their big debut on the big screen. So that's a fun story we'll have coming up. Right now, though, we also this hour have a piece of a healthcare story because we are going to continue with Rosanna Hempel's story, a series rather, called Vital Signs. Josh Crabb is in with headlines about the aspect of what she's looking at today of the healthcare system. Hi, Josh.
Hi, good morning. A Manitoba woman who hurt her knee last year wants to know why wait times for MRI scans are getting longer, not shorter. Provincial data suggests the median wait for the test is now nearly 6 months, the longest it's been since at least 2019. And the province's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. And it's that time again already. The Winnipeg Jets hit the ice yesterday at Canada Life Centre to start their preseason, a chance for prospects to show their stuff. Winnipeg opened with a 3-2 overtime loss against Minnesota, and they'll host Edmonton on Tuesday. Your next local CBC News is at 7:30.
Already. Man, you said it. Oh, thanks, Josh.
Okay.
Well, this afternoon, we will have the official arrival of fall. Let's find out more about this beautiful day, though, with your forecast. Here now is Abby Adiemi.
Yeah, Marcy, today brings warmth, humidity, and lots of sunshine across the province. We're looking at morning temperatures between 9 and 15 degrees, and most of the regions warming up close to 25 today. But right now, Winnipeg, we're seeing 13 degrees in some areas and 12 in some areas, depending on where you are in the city.
What's up in the morning commute, Corey?
Very quiet commute overall. No major issues to report. But if you do see something, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
And so Canada, as we've been reporting, now does officially recognize the state of Palestine. Prime Minister Mark Carney's office released their official statement yesterday morning. Now, the governments of Australia and the United Kingdom did the same yesterday. Here in Winnipeg, yesterday also happened to be the Run for Palestine in the city. About, as I mentioned, 450 people showing up in support of Palestinians. One of the runners was Harold Fagerstrom. He had this to say about the news.
I mean, who knows? Right now, it could be just largely symbolic. It's good because, I mean, the world isn't doing too much. The genocide's happening. We're here supporting, running, listening to music, and people are dying as we're doing it. So I don't know what it's going to mean, but it's a first step. There's many steps that need to be taken, but recognition is one for sure. And people need to know they are their own people, they're their own state, and they deserve the same rights we all enjoy.
In the first hour of our show this morning, we heard from Richard Robinson as well about this. He is Director of Research and Advocacy for B'nai B'rith Canada.
A two-state solution is the only solution to bring about lasting peace in the Middle East. However, it must be done at a time when both the Palestinian people and the Israeli state are capable of coming to the table, and that requires a democratic Palestinian state that is capable of negotiating with the Israeli state. And right now, that is not what we have.
Rex Brynan is with us for an interview next on CBC. He's a professor of political science at McGill University. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what specifically does this move by Canada and other countries mean? As you heard one of the people locally here suggesting at this point it's largely symbolic, but is it? Tell us a bit more about your analysis.
Well, Canada is joining more than 150 countries around the world that recognize the state of Palestine. And they're doing it for, I think, a couple of reasons. Obviously, one reason is the war in Gaza, but I don't think that's even the primary reason. Rather, the current Israeli government, which is a very hardline extremist government under Benjamin Netanyahu, is explicitly committed to preventing there ever being a Palestinian state. Palestinians ever join rights of political self-determination. He's committed to gradual annexation, essentially occupying the Palestinians in perpetuity in a kind of apartheid-type situation. And I think a lot of countries around the world are very concerned about the possibility of this Israeli government precluding there ever being peace, and therefore want to stand up for the principle that there needs to eventually be a Palestinian state, which would live alongside Israel in peace and security. So I think it's precisely because of the erosion of the prospects of a two-state solution, talk in Israel about annexation, more illegal settlement activity in the West Bank, increased settler violence from the Israeli army. Those are as much what Canada is responding to, and the Prime Minister made that clear in his statement, as the horrific war in Gaza.
The U.S. isn't at the table of those countries that are recognizing Palestinian statehood. Why does that matter? What are the implications of it?
Well, the U.S. is the most influential country in the world, and it's certainly the country that has the most influence with Israel. But what we have seen under the Trump administration is it essentially has abandoned many years of commitment to a two-state solution and is largely greenlighting whatever the government of Israel wants to do. And we should remember that President Trump's own plan, which he publicly articulated, is that the Palestinian population should be forced out of Gaza so it can be made available for real estate development. We're literally at a point and I don't think this comes as a surprise to Canadians who've grown to know Donald Trump only too well, that Donald Trump's position is ethnic cleansing. I mean, he's very, very clear about that. That's the official government position in the U.S., and it's been adopted by the Israeli government too. So unfortunately, we're not going to have the U.S. on side on this one, which I think is all the more reason. I think it's a major reason why the French pushed us, the British, the Australians, and others to join the rest of the world in this recognition. And before that, we saw the Irish, Spanish, the Norwegians advocating for it too. This is a really critical point where it's important that we express support for a two-state solution, even if that declaration doesn't immediately change anything on the ground.
People might be balking as they heard you say, describe the positions as ethnic cleansing. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you've worded it in that way? And also in the backdrop of, we heard from B'nai B'rith Canada saying they have concerns about, while there isn't a democratically elected government in Gaza, Canada going in this direction.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any serious doubt that what President Trump called for is ethnic cleansing. He's calling for Palestinians to be pushed out of Gaza. I mean, there's a war there, there's starvation there. He's talked about the desirability of removing Palestinians. Indeed, the U.S. government has looked at trying to relocate them to places like South Sudan. I mean, that's textbook ethnic cleansing. You just won't find a serious political scientist anywhere who would characterize it otherwise. And that's really an aberration. We wouldn't have found any other U.S. government doing that, but this is also a U.S. government that seems to be okay with Russian occupation of parts of Ukraine.
And can you speak
as well?
I don't want to run out of time. Can you also speak then to B'nai B'rith's concerns?
Well, the Democratic one doesn't make a lot of sense because one of the primary obstacles to the future Palestinian elections is that the Israeli government won't allow them. We absolutely need negotiations on two-state solution. It would be helpful if he would point out that the Israeli government opposes a two-state solution, whereas the Palestine Authority is in favor of it. I mean, the Palestine Authority in Ramallah, President Abbas, explicitly favors a peace agreement with Israel. That has been the position of the Palestine Authority consistently. Indeed, they're the only ones. Hamas doesn't favor it. The Netanyahu government doesn't favor it. It's the Palestine Authority. So what we really should be doing is perhaps increasing our support for the one actor who repeatedly publicly articulates its desire for a negotiated two-state solution. The problem is not on the Palestine Authority side. The problem is on the Netanyahu government side and on the Hamas side, both of whom really oppose the establishment of a two-state solution.
Rex, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
Rex Brynan with us, professor of political science at McGill University. If you want to read some local reaction to this over the weekend from Manitoba, we played a little bit there, but you can always go to our website as well at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
The night lights up with Arch in the Exchange, and After Dark will be there. Winnipeg, this is Odario Williams, and I will be spinning tunes for a special recording of After Dark, just outside of Art Space for Nuit Blanche, September 27th. Art, music, dance, all night. Nuit Blanche, proudly sponsored by CBC. Just visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Well, speaking of music, Winnipeg-born singer-songwriter Laura Lucas, now based in Australia, was home over this past weekend. Maybe you caught Laura Lucas at the Handsome Daughter. She has a debut full-length album coming out. It's called There's a Place. It's called There's a Place Go, I believe. And it's set for release on November 14th, so you can check that out. Maybe she played this over the weekend if you saw the show. This is new music from Laura Lucas. Tune's called Woman on CBC.
Spend too much time kissing people I don't wanna kiss. Too many lies live their lives out on my list. I don't know why, I don't know a good feeling when I see one. When he's inside, don't feel like a woman, but I'll be one. They say I should want this, want this, want this. Don't know what I want is, want is, want is. I think I want this, want this, want this. Just not like this. and I know for sure this isn't what it's supposed to feel like. I've been here before, and I know that shame is just a white lie. It says I should want this, want this, want this. Don't know what I want is, want is, want is. I think I want this, want this, want this. Just not like this, like this, like this. Just be a good girl, just be inviting. A little rough, but always abiding. Love what you got, but keep it in hiding. Hiding, hiding. They say I should want this, want this, want this. Don't know what I want is, want is, want is. They say I should want this, want this, want this. Don't know what I want is, want is, want is. I think I want this, want this, want this. Just not like this, like this, like this.
Laura Lucas with her tune called Woman from her debut full-length album called There's a Place I Go. Now, it is set for release on November 14th.
Western Canada's best up-and-coming hip-hop, country, rock artists, and more are coming to Winnipeg. Winnipeg welcomes Breakout West September 24th to 28th. A 4-day music conference and 3-day music festival, including the Western Canadian Music Awards, and CBC is a proud sponsor. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Well, speaking of community, our province is beautiful right now. It's partly cloudy and 12 in Winnipeg, our highest 24 with lots of sun, but that rain over the weekend and then now the sun coming back out. Fall is just bursting and there's still some leaves on the trees and they're changing colors and showing off. We asked you late last week for your photos of fall. So I've started an album now on my Facebook page, Marcy Marcusa. Please feel free to add in the thread. We'll get it all organized. And if you want to see some of the beautiful pictures that have already come in, there's a gorgeous little stand by Winnipeg Beach. It says pumpkins by the bench, and it is also by the beach. And they're all over these little colorful pumpkins, sort of on the roadside, and just gorgeous, right? White, green, orange pumpkins, just classically fall. There's a little red wagon. Also got a lot of pictures of people's changing trees, some bright, vibrant red trees, just amber maples in front of those evergreens, just shows off so well. And beautiful pictures of Carmen, Manitoba were sent in to us as well from some of the listeners of the water running through the community, different streams, rivers, and just the gorgeous green grass, a little bit of yellow, leaves on the ground, and then the contrast of the trees changing in the back. So these photos are gorgeous. I can't describe them all. You can go and look at them all, though, on our Facebook page, and we will continue to collect them. Right now, let's collect some sports stories, shall we? Scott Reguera is back for our look at that. Good morning.
I thought you described them very well. I was there with you fully.
Were you? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Well, you should be, because this province is stunning at this time of year. Baseball, the Jays are headed back to the playoffs.
They are indeed becoming the first team in the American League, Marcy, to clinch a spot after they beat Kansas City yesterday. To see them in this position, given the way their season started, it's mind-boggling. Remember, a month into the campaign, the Jays had a losing record. They were 8 games back of the AL East lead. But led by the contributions of the unsung, the Ernie Clements, Addison Bargers, and Nathan Lucases of the world, they have clawed their way back. The Stars chipped in as well, George Springer and Bo Bichette in particular. Bichette, who leads the major leagues in hits, offered his thoughts in the Jays' champagne and music-filled locker room.
Guys have been amazing in every single situation. Every player in every role has done so much to help us win. So, I mean, I think when you start to look around and every single player had a part in winning games, and not just one game, but multiple games, is when I think everybody started buying in and getting really confident in each other. We're as close as any team I've been on before.
Bichette talking about all the different contributors, Marcy. Just look at yesterday's playoff clinching win as an example. Trey Savage, a prospect few thought would get to the big leagues in his first year, went 4 innings. And helping him do that was the veteran catcher Tyler Heineman, whose leadership and whose close to 300 batting average has gotten lost a bit amidst all of these other Jays good news stories. Toronto will now try, with a week to go, to win the division. They have a 2-game lead over the Yankees. They do have today off, the Jays, and that's a good thing given the party celebrations we heard there in that locker room.
There's also a celebration for the Canadian sprint relay team, right?
Yep. That's the combo of Aaron Brown, Jerome Blake, Brendan Rodney, and Andre DeGrasse, who won silver yesterday at the World Championships. Beaten only by the U.S., the Canadians came close to setting a new national record despite driving rain in Tokyo. DeGrasse was asked about the achievement.
I remember the first camp back in 2016, like in Florida. I mean, that's where it all started for us, and ever since then we've had that tradition where we've always gone every single year to camp and practice our baton. So happy that we came together and we've done this at such a high level for such a long time. So definitely amazing run, and who knows for the future. We look forward to Worlds again in Beijing 2027.
Yeah, that might be a bit bold. DeGrasse and his teammates will, after all, be in their mid-30s by the next World Championships. But if this was their last major global meet together, Marcy, it's worth noting what they've accomplished. They've now won together silver and gold at the World Championships and bronze, silver, and gold at the Olympic Games. Quite a run, if you will.
Absolutely. And also in a strong run, Canada's women's rugby team, they're headed to the World Cup final.
Man, after a convincing win over the weekend against New Zealand. Next up, Marcy, a chance on Saturday to claim a first-ever World Cup title should they beat England. They will not be favorites against the tournament hosts in front of an expected crowd of 80,000. But Canadian captain Alex Tessier says that's nothing new.
I like that. I like that dark horse or underdog. But I guess we've graduated from underdogs to dark horse, and we'll see what's next one. Maybe once we win that title. Yeah. I'm very confident with this team. There's so much left in the tank. We build after every training. We build after every match, and we'll look to even obviously review, reassess again to quickly focus on England and again ourselves as well.
Back in March, on the eve of International Women's Day, Rugby Canada put out a crowdfunding call for $1 million. It was realized, and here they are. I'm not sure a group of tough-as-nails rugby players, Marcy, appreciates their story being equated so often to Cinderella. But if the shoe fits, and in this case, it definitely fits. Jets last night lost in OT. It was a rookie training camp game. Tomorrow they should have Jonathan Taves in the lineup. We'll give that a full setup for you.
They should rewrite Cinderella. She should lose a cleat, and then we'd be okay. Right?
I like that.
All right,
yeah.
Take care.
Okay.
Let's get to our CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's clear and 12 degrees downtown, foggy and 8 in Brandon, 12 with mist in Thompson. Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. Darlene Jackson is the president of the Manitoba Nurses Union. She thinks it will be hard for the province to continue this momentum unless changes are made to the healthcare system.
I think it's good to see the numbers go down, but any death or major incident, any one is too many. So I think, the struggle is going to be to continue to push those numbers down.
Jackson says many of the critical incidents could have been prevented with proper oversight. She says she would like to see the province hire more nurses and healthcare aides to address understaffing. A Manitoba woman who hurt her knee last year wants to know why wait times for MRI scans are getting longer, not shorter. Provincial data suggests the median wait for the test is now nearly 6 months, the longest it's been since at least 2019. Nikita Lindenberg injured her knee during a fall in December. She says doctors did not book her an MRI at the time because they thought her injury would heal by the time she got the scan. But Lindenberg says she's still in pain and can't get an MRI until next year.
That means my initial injury will be over a year old before I'm actually able to find out what the underlying issue is. My biggest concern is that if it's not looked at properly, that this could end up causing issues long term.
Health Minister Uzoma Asaguera says the Manitoba government recently launched a mobile MRI service in northern Manitoba and is looking to add more machines and staff to the healthcare system. The day after Canada officially recognized the state of Palestine, Prime Minister Mark Carney is at the United Nations for a summit on a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Chris Reyes reports.
We agree with the Secretary General when he says there is no plan B for the two-state solution.
The UN's Palestinian envoy Riyad Mansour says most in the international community agree. That show of support is expected this afternoon at a special conference at the UN General Assembly that will be attended by world leaders, including Prime Minister Mark Carney. The Israeli ambassador Danny Danon has denounced the gathering.
It's not going to promote peace. It's not going to bring the hostages back. It's not going to support the Palestinian people. It's a show. It's a circus.
142 countries already passed a framework to achieving the two-state solution. It included demands for both Israel and a Palestinian state, including an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, a stop to the expansion of Jewish settlements, and that Hamas disarm and never be allowed to form government. The U.S. and Israel voted against it. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is pushing back against allegations her government will use the notwithstanding clause to block some rights for transgender people. A leaked memo suggests the government plans to integrate the clause into 3 laws. Stephanie Cram has more.
It's a leaked memo, so obviously it's an internal discussion document and somebody's upset about it, and so they're trying to make a media story out of it.
Premier Danielle Smith on her weekly call-in radio show pushing back against allegations her government plans to use the notwithstanding clause to override certain sections of the charter. That leaked memo says the province will preemptively integrate the clause into 3 laws impacting transgender people, including one limiting gender-affirming health care, like the use of puberty blockers. Parent Eldika Simpson is disappointed by the government, saying the targeted legislation banning transgender women from female sports will impact her child, Riley.
I can't imagine being a child or a youth who wakes up hearing that their government are prepared to say that your rights are not protected.
If Alberta decides to use the notwithstanding clause, it'll be introduced to Cabinet on October 21st. And Premier Smith says she welcomes taking the issue to court. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Edmonton.
And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Well, it's interesting because we just heard in Stephanie's report a mention of that notwithstanding clause. Now, we've been looking at another story. We have confirmed a guest for 8:10 this morning on the show here live. But it's about a different story, but it also is going to have us exploring, just in case you're not aware what it is, what the notwithstanding clause is and how it can be used. Manitoba and our Premier Wab Kinew has weighed in on a controversial Quebec bill and law, actually, that's in place that bans religious symbols for public sector workers. So we're going to hear more about how that bill that's put forward about this could impact people all across the country. So that's coming up after 8 o'clock. Right now, let's go to our regional forecast. Abby has those details on this Monday, September 22nd, last day of summer.
Last day of summer, and it's going to feel warm. I'm telling you, some humid conditions will also be coming with that. We're going to see sunny conditions across board. Some regions still waking up to foggy conditions, but that should fade and more sunshine this afternoon. Conditions in the Red River Valley this time, we're looking at temperatures hovering between 11 and 13 degrees, depending on where you are in the city. It's clear right now with some southwest, southeast winds, and that's feeling mild. Later today, it's going to get mainly sunny with those fog patches lifting this morning, and we'll see temperatures reaching near 25 degrees, but the humidity would be close to 30 degrees. In the Pembina Valley region, we're talking about some kind of temperatures hovering between 11 and 12. Gentle winds there, warming up to 24, also 22 degrees. We're still spotting some foggy conditions in that region, but as you get into the morning, that will clear. Now, tracking it into the north, the powerful influence surrounding areas, we're looking at 15 degrees right now. Cloudy conditions we see, but that should become more sunny as you get into the midday period as those foggy conditions lift. Winds coming from the southeast, and we'll see temperatures climb to 24. Mist in Thompson at 12 degrees at this time, warming to 22. And Churchill enjoying some clear skies this morning. Temperatures around 10 degrees, warming to 25 with sunshine, lots of sunshine in the forecast there. So it's more like warm, humid, and lots of sunshine in the forecast today.
Abby, you contributed to our fall album of photos in Manitoba, and this one actually looks like a puzzle I recently did, to be honest.
Really?
It's a classic image of a red pickup truck, an old school red pickup. Looks like maybe 1950s,
Yeah,
40s,
the
40s.
The 40s, 50s.
Yeah, and it's kind of positioned behind a beautiful terracotta planter that's full of, it's got mums and pumpkins. Where were you when you shot this?
I was.
Abby.
Thank you.
And thanks to all, Abby.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you who have been sharing as well. We're building a bit of an album on my Facebook page. So I know that Susan Waters also sent in some photos to us, as well as Squirrely Q. And then there's a whole bunch of different photos that were emailed to me as well. So I've just, I don't have everyone's name in front of me right now, but I promise I'll get your names on this week. And if you want to submit a photo, you can go to our Facebook page and post directly there, or you can email us at radio893@cbc.ca. Corey, you look like you have your hand up.
Oh, I was actually.
You gonna give us a photo?
No, I was actually just reliving a moment. I went for a run the other day, and I was running, and I had this moment where I saw a leaf falling down. It was falling kind of radically, and I'm like, I was running, and I was like, I'm gonna catch that leaf.
Oh,
and then
did you get it?
I caught it. I surprised myself. I actually had to stop for a second. Like, am I like a ninja? And I
That's
did.
how I feel when I kill lazy flies in the fall. I'm like, I killed a fly.
I know. I'm like, I have like, I think I'm superhuman, but I think I just got lucky that I caught the leaf and it was falling very erratically. I was pretty proud of myself. That's my fall moment.
Well, you didn't run in this morning. You biked in. What was it like?
It was great, and it was actually warmer than I thought. The humidity really makes things feel a lot more clammy than you'd expect for this time of year. Other than that, though, I haven't heard of any major issues out there on the roads. But if you do see something, though, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
20 to 8 right now on your Monday morning. And next on the show, we're going to meet Dory, a very sweet, small gray and white cat that loves curling up on the sofa. And she's also, by the way, a movie star. The friendly feline has a role in this new spooky film that's out in movie theaters now. It's a thriller. It's called The Long Walk. It's based on a Stephen King novel that you might have read. The movie was shot here in Manitoba, though, at Birds Hill Park. The actors actually did the walk in Manitoba. Dory, this little cat, was born without eyes and was rescued as a kitten by the Steinbach and Area Animal Rescue. CBC Manitoba's community reporter, Shanley Vidal, was in Steinbach to meet Dory and her owner, Michelle Neufeld.
She's like literally the sweetest cat ever, which is kind of ironic that she was cast into a Stephen King movie.
Michelle Neufeld's cat, Dory, is now a movie star. Dory is featured in The Long Walk, which was filmed in Manitoba and is now in theaters. Dory was born blind and has been in Neufeld's care since she was found abandoned at 3 weeks old. Neufeld is president of the Steinbach and Area Animal Rescue and fell in love with Dory's personality after bottle feeding her as a kitten.
She does not have a creepy bone in her body. I get it, like she was there probably for aesthetic reasons, like her looks and stuff. It is kind of creepy when you see a cat with no eyes. Actually, her whole scene was sitting on a mailbox. They built a specific prop just for her. And that was her part, is just sitting on the mailbox. They actually had a special leash that went around her waist that kind of tethered her to the mailbox just in case she would jump off or fall or something like that. They were very cautious about her safety and stuff like that. So, but she honestly didn't need it. She just sat there like no problem. She was enjoying the sounds and everything. A lot of the crew, like, they had big machinery there, like military equipment that was in the scene. So she was just very interested in all the new sounds. She loved it. She sat there perfectly. Like, I heard a few people, I'm not sure who it was, but if it was the director or the camera crew or whatever, they're like, yes, that was the perfect shot. And yeah, so she did a great job. It was very funny because a few of the cast asked if this was her like what other movies she's been in, and I'm like, this is her first movie. Can't see like normal cats, but she sees the world in a different way. She sees with her ears and her nose, and she likes toys that smell, like catnip toys, stuff like that. Any kind of toys that can be, that she can detect with her hearing and her nose. You would never know she's any different.
Shanley Vidal, CBC News, Steinbach.
What a cutie patootie. If you're watching on YouTube, Dory, adorable. The Long Walk features Star Wars actor as well, Mark Hamill, but he wasn't on set the day Dory's scene was filmed, by the way. If you want to follow Dory on Instagram, there's also a way to do that. It is Dory on Instagram at _Dory, _Dory. That's where you can find her. And CBC's Shanley Vidal put that piece together along with our videographer, Travis Golby. And I got to say, animals are amazing, right? I don't know if you have maybe a three-legged animal, or maybe you have an animal missing an eye. I know that I've had 2 dogs now that have had one eye due to problems, and they don't seem to miss a beat. Just as amazing as human beings as well. But I find it incredible when with my dog, like, you'll play ball and he'll hear it on the side where he has no eye, and he'll turn his head and catch the ball right out of the air. So it's really quite something when you live with one of these animals. You get to understand that. But Dory is now also a movie star, so you can check that out as The Long Walk hits theaters. Maybe you've already seen it. 7:44 a.m. the time, 12 degrees the temperature, calm in Winnipeg. I want to talk about a couple of things that are coming up here after 8. So have you ever been so busy that you didn't have time to eat? A lot of people are nodding yes. Sometimes you just get so overwhelmed that making a warm meal seems like just another stressful thing to do. But it doesn't have to be like that. We're actually going to plug in with a dietitian coming up after 8 o'clock on the program on Information Radio, as well to an interview that Corey's been working on this morning and has now confirmed a guest. We're going to talk to Jennifer Selby. She's a professor of religion and culture and political science at Memorial University, actually out in Newfoundland. But she's talking about a national story that our premier has taken hold of here. Manitoba is weighing in, and Premier Canoe has weighed in, on a Quebec law that bans religious symbols for public sector workers. So we're going to hear how this bill could impact people all across the country as it has moved up in the courts in this country. So stay tuned. That's all coming up on Information Radio after 8.
Opaskwayak Cree Nation, let's talk. CBC wants to get to know you a little better. I'm Felicia Adam. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to OCN September 27th to October 1st. What do you want us to know about your community? What stories are we missing? I can't wait to meet you. Communities in Focus. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
And now the second installment of a series that we are calling Vital Signs. CBC Manitoba's look at the state of our healthcare system after nearly 2 years of NDP governance. Now, last week we brought you a story about surgical wait times. Today, diagnostic wait times, in particular, MRIs. Thousands of Manitobans are waiting for MRIs, hopeful it will help improve treatment or maybe lead to a diagnosis. But many are in limbo until they get that test. The median wait time for an MRI has gone up from 22 weeks in 2024 to 26 weeks so far this year. CBC reporter Rosanna Hempel has been speaking to people in pain and waiting for tests, and she joins us once again in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
So who did you speak with about this?
Well, Marcy, I spoke with Nikita Lindenberg. She's a mom of 2, and she hurt her knee right around Christmas time. So her dog actually came running around a corner, smacked her in the leg. She twisted her knee really badly, and it ballooned from all the swelling. She couldn't bend it or put weight on it. So she goes to the ER. They did an x-ray, which didn't show any breaks or fractures. The doctors did not order an MRI at the time because they said the wait was too long and that her injury would likely resolve itself by the time she got the test. So fast forward a few months, her knee is still in pain. It still swells on the daily. So she pushed. She went back to get an MRI. And a few weeks ago, she got a letter from Shared Health with a date for the test.
Well, it's actually the 4th of March of 2026. And I was really, there was like a second of like, I'm so disappointed. And then there was a moment of, this is ridiculous. Like, my injury is going to be over a year old before I finally get answers.
So for Nikita, it's a mix of emotions, confusion, frustration as to why it's gotten to this point.
I've had letters like that, and I've had to reread them. Like, does this say this year, next year? When is this? How have the wait times for MRIs changed?
So, based on provincial data, we know that the median wait for an MRI has increased. It's at about 26 weeks so far this year. So that means half the people waiting for an MRI this year waited more than 6 months. And that's up 4 weeks since last year, which was up 2 weeks from the year before. And different people had different things to say about why the wait times are going up. The health minister says overall there are more doctors in the healthcare system, so they're ordering more MRIs. I also spoke with the Canadian Association of Medical Radiation Technologists. Dana McTaggart is with the association, and she says aging equipment could be part of the problem, where breakdowns last a number of weeks, and that overall we do have an aging population. Another factor she mentioned was how technologists are trained.
We feel as MRTs, the public has the perception that we're not working hard, and we really are. We really want to have patients get the scans that they need in a really timely fashion. We're devoted to doing that, and we're here for that. And, giving us the resources we need to do that is essential.
So Dana says that Manitoba currently has 115 certified MRI technologists, and not all of them may be practicing right now. And in the last few years, that number has fluctuated. It did dip down to 106 technologists, and just 2 years ago, she mentioned that burnout and mental health have been big issues, and that they have been big reasons that some have left the profession. And it is worth pointing out that Manitoba's population has grown, but that number of certified MRI technologists has largely stayed the same.
You mentioned the health minister. So what did Uzoma Asagwara have to say about the increasing MRI waits and what the province is planning to do about it?
Yeah, so the health minister says that the government did recently launch a mobile MRI service in northern Manitoba. That unit began seeing patients at the hospital in Thompson in June. And Asagwara says they're also looking to add machines to the 14 MRI machines that the province currently has.
Whether it's Portage Place or other locations, we're going to be adding more MRI capacity. But again, we've added the mobile MRI in the north. That's a huge addition, and it redirects hundreds of people away from MRIs in Winnipeg. But there's more work to be done. We need to retain and we need to train more technologists.
Asagwara says the province is also working with post-secondary institutions to fast-track some of the pathways for training.
Pathways for training. So what does that look like?
So right now we don't know what those changes could be. I chatted with Red River College Polytech last week. They offer the only MRI program in this province. It's also worth mentioning that Saskatchewan does not have a program. The school said that they're currently reviewing their MRI and spectroscopy program, and so that includes looking at what the labor market might need, what other schools in other provinces are doing. So Red River's program is hybrid, and it's 8.5 months. And students do need a diploma before that to be eligible for that program. And Dana McTaggart with the association says that she hears that there are some challenges associated with that program.
I have heard of MRTs who have attempted to kind of do a work-study balance in the past and haven't been successful to do that. So typically it involves you resigning from your position or taking a leave to immerse yourself full-time in study. And it's also leading some MRTs in Manitoba to investigate distance education options elsewhere.
So Red River told me that they do have 10 seats each year for students. And in the last 5 years, they've graduated about 5 students each year, and they've successfully passed their licensing exams. So as for some of the changes that could happen, some of what the association has brought forward could be part of that review. And Red River did say that nothing is off the table, but at this point, it's really early stages. And they hope to get most of that review done this year.
So all of this sounds like it's going to be a while, even though there's some things in the works. It probably isn't going to help Nikita Lindenberg with her knee. How's she holding up?
So she's been seeing a physiotherapist. And early on, they told her, they don't know what the injury is that they're treating without an MRI. So this has added to her frustration with the situation. And her main concern is if her knee isn't looked at properly, that she could have some long-term problems.
I would like to know what I've done wrong to my body and make a plan going forward, because right now there is no plan.
So she hopes by next year, when she finally gets that MRI and figures out next steps, that her life will be a little bit closer to normal. But for now, she's waiting.
All right, Rosanna, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Hempel, a reporter with CBC Manitoba. I spoke with her on Friday about this story. She'll have more tonight, though, on the CBC News at 6, and you can read about it on our website this morning at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Now, that's some local news around healthcare. Nationally and internationally, we're looking at some legislation around some laws. So you might have missed this Friday. There's new federal anti-hate legislation that was tabled Friday, and it has the Canadian Civil Liberties Association concerned. It says if the bill becomes law, it would be a, quote, blunt instrument that may not be best suited at addressing the goal of protecting identifiable groups. The Combating Hate Act includes 4 new criminal code offenses aimed at cracking down on hate crimes. One would make it a crime to intentionally promote hatred against identifiable groups in public using certain hate or terrorism-related symbols. This legislation comes after a rise of reported hate incidents, according to Statistics Canada. Helen Love is an assistant professor at Simon Fraser University's School of Criminology.
It seems like it's creating this new offense, and that's kind of the big point of the bill. But I think we already have crimes in the criminal code that punish this kind of behavior. So this new crime of the willful promotion of hate through symbols would already be covered by different types of crimes that we already have in the criminal code, including advocating genocide, public incitement of hatred, and so forth. So my initial thought is that this is kind of just a more specific version of laws that we already have that cover this kind of behavior. So what could potentially help police and prosecutors is one of the amendments that the statute made, which made it easier for law enforcement by taking out the requirement that the Attorney General give permission to proceed with these kinds of charges. So that was one of the other major change that they announced with this bill. What I see the government doing is increasing police discretion, right? So if you take out the Attorney General oversight, you're redistributing that discretion to police. So we have to think about what does it mean when we redistribute that kind of oversight and give police more discretion. And the stuff that's happening in the States in terms of how they're defining what constitutes a criminal act and criminality should give us pause when thinking about, these mechanisms of procedural oversight that exist here in Canada and what it means to get rid of them, right? It happens, there's this phenomenon in criminology called over-criminalization, where there's this serious and very complicated and multi-layered social issue, such as hate crimes in this case. And by enacting a new law that goes directly and specifically at this social issue, the government can make it seem like they're going to fix it. But actually, it's just adding law that criminalizes the same behaviors that are already against the law. So it could detract from other solutions that the government could take that are more of a longer term, slower way of addressing hate crimes in our communities.
That's Helen Love, an assistant professor at Simon Fraser's University's School of Criminology, talking about the new federal anti-hate legislation that was tabled on Friday. Now, while we're in the legal sphere, I want to actually switch gears to another story because we've just confirmed in the last half hour we're going to have a guest on this. You might have heard that the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a legal challenge of Bill 21. It was brought by several groups. Bill 21 is basically a Quebec law. It's been in place since 2019. It bans public service workers, including teachers and judges, from wearing visible religious symbols while on the job. Now, that's in Quebec. Why are we talking about it here this morning? Because of the dozens of interveners in the Supreme Court case, Manitoba is now one of the provinces that's intervening. So we're going to hear from Premier Rob canoe on this after 8 and what he's already said, in case you missed that in our news. And then we're going to get some analysis of this and what it all means to potentially you. So stay tuned. That's coming up. Right now, let's get into other news headlines with Josh Crabb.
Good morning. Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. Canada's decision to recognize the state of Palestine was marked here in Winnipeg at the 4th annual Run for Palestine Sunday. We'll hear reaction from participants about the move. And the Winnipeg Jets opened their preseason schedule with a 3-2 overtime loss at home to the Minnesota Wild. Both clubs had very rookie-heavy rosters. Winnipeg is back on the ice at Canada Life Centre Tuesday night against the Oilers. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
See problems in traffic, 788-3093. It is not hockey weather now, I'll tell you. 12 degrees heading for 24. It's going to feel like 30 today.
Today on Q. Mark Ronson has produced some of the biggest pop songs of the last few decades. Uptown Funk, Rehab for Amy Winehouse. But he's here to talk about his new memoir, Night People, and how DJing in clubs set the groundwork for his career as a producer.
So I started to collect records, and then for graduation, I begged my mom to get me turntables.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Texada Island, off the coast of British Columbia, hasn't seen a giant predator in a century. So when a grizzly bear swam ashore and moved in, the community was thrown into crisis and conflict. The story of Tex the bear coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Sep. European leaders are warning Israel not to retaliate against the international push to recognize the state of Palestine. Here's British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper speaking to the BBC.
How concerned are you about the risk of Israel using this as a pretext to start annexing parts of the West Bank?
We have been clear, and I have been clear to the Israeli Foreign Minister, we have been clear to the Israeli government that they must not do that.
The UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal have all formally recognized the state of Palestine, and today the United Nations will continue to be focused on a two-state solution in the Middle East. The CBC's Chris Reyes has been speaking to UN representatives for Israel and Palestinian delegations.
We agree with the Secretary General when he says there is no plan B for the two-state solution.
The UN's Palestinian envoy Riyad Mansour says most in the international community agree. That show of support is expected this afternoon at a special conference at the UN General Assembly that will be attended by world leaders, including Prime Minister Mark Carney. The Israeli ambassador Danny Danon has denounced the gathering.
It's not going to promote peace. It's not going to bring the hostages back. It's not going to support the Palestinian people. It's a show. It's a circus.
142 countries already passed a framework to achieving the two-state solution. It included demands for both Israel and a Palestinian state, including an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, a stop to the expansion of Jewish settlements, and that Hamas disarm and never be allowed to form government. The U.S. and Israel voted against it. Mansour says he believes support from the international community is reaching a tipping point.
I think this time it is different. The reason why it's different is because this genocidal war is outraging countries and hundreds of millions of people in the street.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Palestinian recognition is a reward for Hamas. Ambassador Danon echoed Netanyahu.
Ambassador Danon, do you believe there should be a Palestinian state?
I think after October 7th, this debate is off the table. We have to bring the hostages back.
The conference is expected to last a few hours, with world leaders making statements at the UN General Assembly. Israel and the U.S. are not expected to attend. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
CBC News has learned Transport Canada scaled back some surveillance of the Arctic this summer. It normally keeps a careful eye on pollution, endangered whales, and marine safety. But despite increased political attention and security on the region, overflights were limited. As Mary Brewster tells us, the department promised to deploy a surveillance drone in the Arctic 5 years ago, but that hasn't happened.
This is a relatively low-cost capability that has been serving as surveillance and sovereignty assertion function for decades.
Arctic expert Michael Byers, who is puzzled by Transport Canada's decision to patrol the far north this summer on an on-call basis. Documents obtained by CBC News show the decision to adopt a reactive posture was made last spring. One of the 3 aircraft belonging to the National Aerial Surveillance Program was out of commission. The 1970s vintage Dash 7 was so old, according to the documents, it could no longer be operated safely because of a faulty instrument. Also, a $36 million drone ordered by the department 5 years ago has yet to arrive. And the documents say restrictions on pilot overtime on the other 2 aircraft also contributed to the decision. Byers says it's a curious move given the political climate.
There's obviously been a new emphasis on Arctic surveillance and Arctic security under the new Carney government. And these Transport Canada flights are very low cost compared to the kind of surveillance and security measures that DND plans to provide.
For its part, Transport Canada was reluctant to talk about the aerial surveillance program. A spokesman confirmed there are overtime restrictions, but denied they played into the decision. The department acknowledged the drone is still on order, but didn't say why it hasn't arrived. The old Dash 7, which documents suggest might be a write-off, is now apparently being repaired. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Boats crash against the shores of Santa Ana in the Philippines. Super Typhoon Ragasa hammers the northeastern province of Cagayan. Strong winds and heavy rain have forced the evacuation of several northern villages. Schools and many businesses as well are closed. Officials are issuing warnings for flooding, landslides, and storm surges. There are also widespread power outages. Domestic flights have also been suspended in the Philippines' northern provinces. Taiwan also feeling the effects of Ragasa. The super typhoon has forced authorities to close several coastal and mountainous areas. While U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to tie the use of Tylenol to a risk with autism, the Washington Post is reporting that later today, the Trump administration is set to link the use of Tylenol by pregnant women to the chances of their children being born with autism, and announce the testing of a drug it says can help treat the condition. The CBC's Anis Hadari joins me now from Washington. So, Anis, what more do we know?
Donald Trump is promising, quote, an answer to autism. And there are a couple of things we expect to hear about from him. One is a possible new treatment for autism, and there have been some promising studies behind that one. But we're also expecting a change to policy on one of the most popular over-the-counter drugs in the world. The Washington Post is reporting that health officials here in the U.S. are going to warn pregnant women that they should not use Tylenol. Acetaminophen is the generic name in North America for that drug. The concern, apparently, is that they say using it for pain relief while pregnant could lead to a higher risk of autism in your children. Here's what Trump said when a reporter specifically asked about Tylenol and autism. This is on Air Force One last night.
I think it's a very big factor. And we want things to take effect immediately. Even if it's a question, you just do it, right?
Okay, so as he mentioned there's going to be more that's going to be heard in that news conference. But, Anis, what are we hearing then from the makers of Tylenol and the medical community?
So they've been responding to this for a while because there's been reporting and rumors that the U.S. feds would link Tylenol with autism for weeks. The company, Kenvue, and the general medical community at large have been pushing back. On the Tylenol parent company website, they say credible, independent scientific data continues to show no proven link between taking acetaminophen and autism. And a little more than 2 weeks ago, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said there is no clear evidence linking, quote, prudent use of Tylenol to the development of a fetus. And there are a lot of physicians and medical associations also pointing out, while there has been some research showing a possible correlation with higher autism rates and the use of Tylenol, there is also research that shows the opposite too. And correlation is not causation, says almost every researcher out there, including the ones speaking out on this.
The CBC's Anis Hadari for us in Washington. Anis, thank you for this.
You bet.
Canada's major banks, tech companies, and law enforcement are teaming up to fight fraudsters. The Canadian Anti-Scam Coalition aims to combat financial scams targeting Canadians. But as the CBC's Sophia Harris reports, some critics say the country's first cross-sector coalition fails to address a big part of the problem.
To the tune of eerie music, a video tells Canadians about the rising problem of financial scams and that a new anti-scam coalition, which includes the big banks, is fighting back. The coalition plans to soon launch an educational campaign, but several victims of bank fraud told CBC News they feel the coalition's efforts fall short because it doesn't address refunds for the victims.
So awareness campaigns are important, but they only go so far.
In June, Jessica Fraser of Timmins, Ontario, got a call from a man who said he was with TD Bank's fraud department. He told Fraser her bank account had been compromised, so she needed to follow his instructions to safeguard her money. By the time the call was over, the fraudster had made off with $10,000.
I don't even know if I have words for how I felt. Devastating.
TD refused to reimburse Fraser, telling her she was responsible for what happened.
And I trusted them to safeguard me, and instead I'm left carrying the burden.
The Anti-Scam Coalition says it aims to stop fraudsters before they steal Canadians' cash. But consumer advocate Sylvie de Belleville warns scams are ever evolving.
That scammers will change their scheme, will get more sophisticated schemes.
In Canada, there are no legislative requirements for banks to reimburse victims of scams involving banking transactions. Ottawa has proposed more protections for victims, but couldn't provide an update on when any changes may take effect. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last morning of summer as fall arrives officially this afternoon. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're with CBC's Information Radio, your morning show here on 89.3 FM. Also on YouTube today, if you're checking us out there, where we've seen some beautiful pictures of the sky today as the sun's coming up. It's going to be hot in Winnipeg. Actually, all across the province, pretty warm for today and the rest of the week. Well, if you're up really getting ready to leave for the day and you're in a public sector job, maybe you're a teacher or you work for the public in the government way, you might be getting ready for work like any other day. Perhaps in Manitoba, that means clasping a cross around your neck or putting on a hijab or wrapping your turban. If you were in Quebec, you wouldn't be doing those things because they put a law in place in 2019 that bans public service workers from wearing visible religious symbols while on the job. Manitoba has now intervened in the Supreme Court case looking at this, and we're going to find out more about why. So stay tuned. That's this half hour on the show. Plus, something else you might be doing this morning is making lunch, or maybe you're skipping it. For a lot of people, it is the most stressful part of the day, and we are going to hear more about why it matters to your health to eat properly and how to get through all those busy things in your morning. That's this half hour as well. Bit of a lighter look at things. All right, let's get into news stories and headlines with Josh Crabb.
Good morning. As you've been hearing on Information Radio, the annual median wait for an MRI in Manitoba is at its longest in at least 6 years. Provincial data suggests the wait is now almost 6 months. The Canadian Association of Medical Radiation Technologists says aging equipment, an aging population, and staff burnout could all be factors. Jewish and Palestinian Manitobans are reacting to Canada's decision to recognize the state of Palestine. The Prime Minister's office says it's a path to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. And the Winnipeg Jets hit the ice yesterday at Canada Life Centre to start their preseason, a chance for prospects to show their stuff. Winnipeg opened with a 3-2 overtime loss against the Minnesota Wild, and they'll host Edmonton on Tuesday. Your next local CBC News is at 8:30.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
All right, Abby, what's the forecast?
Mostly sunny and humid across the province. Winnipeg hovering near 13 degrees right now. Most of the province, we're seeing temperatures hovering will be between 9 and 15, and the temperatures will climb to around 25 across board. Humidity will be around 31 in Winnipeg and 27 in the northern part of the province.
All right, thank you. Let's get to the commute. Corey?
The really quiet commute overall out there. Haven't heard of any major issues, but if you're out there, you see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
So let's hear from Manitoba's premier on this law that I mentioned. Manitoba will weigh in on a controversial Quebec law that bans religious symbols for public sector workers. So here's where we're at right now. The Supreme Court of Canada has agreed to hear a legal challenge of the law, Bill 21. It became law in 2019 in Quebec. There has yet to be a date set, but last week, Manitoba's Attorney General Matt Wiebe filed an intervention to the Supreme Court. In it, he argued that courts should be able to declare whether laws like this violate the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, even though the notwithstanding clause allows for governments to override certain protected rights. This is what Premier Wabkidu had to say about why his government intervened.
Well, I think there's an important constitutional question that needs to get settled. But I think on the face of it, here in Manitoba, we are not fans of Bill 21. We have turban-wearing Sikhs. We have Hutterites who wear headscarves, Muslims who wear hijabs, Christian people who wear the cross. And we have a lot of secular folks, a lot of atheists even, who are concerned with suspension of charter rights. So, just in that very direct way, we're standing up for people in our province and what we want our confederation, our Canadian public sphere to see reflected when it comes to this question about secularism and separation of church and state, but also importantly about the freedom of religion.
Jennifer Selby is here to help us understand all of what's happening. She's a professor of religion and culture and political science at Memorial University of Newfoundland, but she's originally from Winnipeg and she's been studying this. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Why is this law something that other provinces like ours, Manitoba, are concerned about? Can you give us the picture of how this could potentially impact us as Canadians overall?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would just highlight three things that the Premier Canoe just mentioned. First is about protecting visible and religious minorities. The bill or the law does not overtly speak about religious or visible minorities, but they are those who are primarily affected by the law. So that kind of visible difference in the public sphere, I think, matters to a lot of Canadians. The second is like a complex two solitudes, if you will, question about what is the project of Canada in terms of bilingualism, two settler colonial nations, provincial autonomy, and how does the charter fit into that? And then the third piece is about what is the acceptable employment of Section 33, the notwithstanding clause, especially if it's used repeatedly and renewed to trump Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
So let me dig into that last one because a lot of people don't really understand the notwithstanding clause. But what you're saying effectively in the backdrop of this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if enough provinces use the notwithstanding clause to put a law like this in place, effectively, they're changing the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So then one might ask, how do we better protect the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the face of this? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this Section 33, it allows the kind of some people call it a safety valve. Others have deemed it the nuclear option. So it kind of depends on what perspective you take, but it allows different jurisdictions, territories, provinces, even at the federal level, to trump, if you will, certain charter rights. Not all charter rights, but certain charter rights. So notwithstanding means kind of like in spite of a charter right. So in this case, although the Quebec government had attempted several times before Law 21 passed in 2019 to pass laws restricting religious signs in the public sphere, notably for, in this case, people in positions of authority with the provincial government. Despite that, it never passed because those laws were seen as going against religious freedom rights. So this notwithstanding clause is this kind of part of a complex question about, the Constitution of Canada, how that came about, and whether, what would happen if the Supreme Court of Canada decided to change that Constitution. It could open up a constitutional debate. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's about more than just this particular law, but this particular law is important as well.
And if we look at this particular law, obviously Manitoba an intervener, but some other provinces as well, and the Supreme Court will hear this. We don't have a date yet, as I said. So if they are
Yes.
going to hear this and they actually agree with those who have intervened here, does that mean that Quebec can't have this law within their province? What does that mean?
I guess that's ultimately what it could mean. They have, the law passed in 2019. More than 5 years have passed since then, and so the law was renewed. The notwithstanding clause in Quebec was successfully renewed, and the law has gone through 2 appeals in Quebec already before reaching the Supreme Court. So, it's unclear. Certainly the Coalition Avenir Québec, the leading provincial party at the moment, they are in a way doubling down. They recently, commissioned a report that introduces 50 new recommendations.
Yeah, they want to expand this.
To go further. Yeah, exactly. So there is a way in which things are heating up, and there is a kind of polarization that's happening on this question, I think, in Quebec and the rest of Canada.
So when this came up, I just want to make this clear to people. We have one of the largest French-speaking as well. Not that this is about language, but we have one of the largest French-speaking communities outside Quebec. So I actually went to St. Boniface in 2019 to talk to a bunch of residents there just about how they would feel about something like this and being in Canada, just to get their point of view on this, because people would lean into what is developing in Quebec. As part of your research, you interviewed people impacted by the law already there.
Yeah.
What did you hear from people?
Yeah, so I've done 2 studies that have looked at Law 21 from different perspectives. The first one in which I interviewed as part of a larger project looking at Algerian immigration, Algerians who live in Montreal. And there are women in particular, again, racialized, so people who are visibly different and are seen as Muslim, whether or not they are a Muslim, are certainly impacted by that. So I'm thinking of one of my participants, of the 65 women I interviewed, who came to Quebec really with the idea of a promise of difference, chose Quebec and not France, because France has very rigorous laws that have been in place now for more than 20 years that really reduce religion in the public sphere. So chose Montreal, came to Quebec, enrolled in the education program in her 4th year, and now at a stage in which she is grandfathered through the education system, so she's allowed to complete her degree as a woman who wears hijab, but can never teach in the public school system in Quebec. And so that's a very challenging situation, I think, for a number of women in particular. And the data show that, many of my participants talked about wanting to leave Quebec and seeking to leave, but quantitative data show that very few people are actually leaving Quebec, because it's one thing to talk about it, and it's another thing to with your families and people who are in different socioeconomic situations to leave Quebec and for language reasons. So so there's a definite tremendous impact, and more than just on particular individuals, let's say in education or in policing or in positions of authority that are impacted by the law. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't extend to all public employees, but just to people in positions of authority. But though it extends, it creates a kind of ambiance, if you will, in which people who wear visible religious signs feel surveilled. There's more overt expressions of hate. So people are kind of emboldened, if you will.
I'm slightly short on time, but I do have one additional quick question just for clarity. It extends to people in authority. So I might have been mistaken when I'm talking about public school teachers, all of them. Would it just be the principal or the superintendent?
You're not mistaken. You're not mistaken at all. Teachers, this is one of the controversial bits of that section or Article 6 of the law, is that teachers were included
as positions of authority. Okay.
And now there's a move to extend that to daycare workers as part of a new recommendation that came out at the end of August. And also, I wanted to also mention Article 8 of Law 21 that gets a lot less attention, and that it limits the reception and receiving of public services for all those who wear full-face veils or niqabs.
Lots to talk about, Jennifer. Thank you very much for weighing in this morning. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for your attention to this matter.
Jennifer Selby is a professor of religion and culture and political science at Memorial University of Newfoundland. She's a former Winnipegger. She's been studying this. So to read more about the story and Manitoba intervening on this thing that's, law that has gone to the Supreme Court now, and Manitoba, one of the interveners. It's a law out of Quebec. If you want to read more about it, you can go to cbc.ca for the national story, and for local coverage of what our premier said last week about it, cbc.ca/Manitoba. 8:23 a.m. is the time right now. Partly cloudy, 13 degrees. Going to be nice today, a high of 24, and going to be super sunny, feel like 30 degrees. All week long, we've got clear sunshine, and this is not just Winnipeg. It's going to be lovely all over. Brandon, right now, you're waking up to 7 degrees and calm winds. Thompson, that fog has returned for you, but it's already 13 degrees up in Thompson. Well, for a lot of people, it's the most stressful part of their day, even for Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. She was asked when she was with us, she was asked about the biggest challenge in her life.
It's trying to figure out what to cook for dinner nightly, just night after night. What is it going to be tonight?
You don't actually cook your own dinner, do you?
Oh, please. I do my own washing, my own cooking, my own ironing, all of that.
No.
Yeah. So,
see, there's something nobody would know.
You have to figure, what is it going to be tonight? I did that last night. That's the hardest thing right there.
I love that the late Queen of Soul, I mean, you think of her career, her life, her busyness, and it's what to make for dinner that's the most stressful. But it is for a lot of us. WRHA public health dietitian Avery Penner is here to finish up our show this morning. She says it doesn't have to be this stressful. So she's in with a bag of food and a whole bunch of things. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me a little bit about what you hear from people about the reality of this stress.
Well, I hear a lot from families, especially with kids, that they're on the go all the time. They maybe have 30 minutes in between activities. So it can be really hard to fit in a balanced meal and plan ahead for those meals as well.
And when does the planning start? Are you sitting down with a big piece of paper at the beginning of the week, or are you're doing it on the back of a page on the way to the grocery store? Right. What do you suggest?
Ideally, planning ahead is the best way to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients you need from the foods that you're eating. So if you can, setting aside maybe a Sunday afternoon, maybe you have time on a Thursday evening, whatever day works for you. You can always get the kids involved as well if that helps to bring everyone together to make a plan that works for the whole week. In between those activities, making sure that you have things that work on the go, things that work for when you actually have time for a sit-down meal with the family. Just thinking about all those things.
What have you brought in front of you? Because I saw a bag with a bunch of things you brought out. So hold them up. This is your camera here if you want to hold them up for our YouTube audience. What have you got?
Yeah. So I have Canada's Food Guide. That's really what we want to use as our basis when we're planning our meals and snacks. So thinking about trying to involve about half your plate, or maybe it's a lunch kit, whatever it might be, half your plate, fruit and vegetables, and then a quarter of your plate, we want to have protein foods. So things like cheese, yogurt, lentils, beans, meats, fish, things like that. And then a quarter of our plate for whole grains. So that could be whole wheat bread.
We got the bread in the studio.
A muffin, maybe. That's a great
Show me
on the
muffin.
go.
Is that a plastic muffin?
It is a plastic muffin.
I love that you have that. Here, give it a toss.
Yeah.
I'll catch it. Oh, she didn't trust me to catch it, but I would have. I like that, actually. You could fool some people with this. And you also have, so that's the quarter of your plate there.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought in some other examples just of simple things that'll pack well if you're on the go, or maybe you have in your house at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yogurt is a good on the go snack as well.
Yep.
That would be fitting into now our protein food section. There used to be on Canada's Food Guide the milk and dairy products, but now it's part of our protein foods because we really want to focus on also having water as our drink of choice throughout the day.
Okay.
For kids especially, this can help prevent them from filling up on other drinks.
Does yogurt still screw people up, though? Because a lot of people still put it in dairy. They don't put it in protein, right?
Right, yes. So it is a fairly recent Canada's Food Guide that's just come out. So it looks like a plate. It's not the rainbow anymore. So yeah, it is taking a bit of adjustment time for a lot of people. But yeah.
That's a really good looking fake banana. You've got some quality props here.
Yeah.
And then why have you got the spaghetti and meatballs prop? What's that about?
So spaghetti and meatballs is a fairly balanced meal already. You would maybe want to add some salad on the side, something like that for your fruits and vegetables option. But you can always pack this in a thermos that you've preheated with some hot water if you want to pack it on the go as well. So you can pack hot foods. You just have to plan ahead a little bit for that as well.
How can people increase variety in their meals? Because that happens to a lot of us, right? It's like, I'm so sick of making the same thing, but...
Yeah. So planning variety, you can try to involve the kids, see what they've seen. Maybe they've seen things on social media and they want to bring that into their diet. Trying to think about what are the different protein options you like? What are the different whole grain options you like? What are the different vegetables and fruits that you like? And how can you bring those into dishes, combine them together in new ways and things like that? It's really about that planning. Because last minute, we're not going to be thinking about those things if we're on the go and we're like, oh no, I don't have a meal right now. So even planning snacks that work on the go can be really helpful.
What's your go-to when you want a healthy meal, but you don't have time?
Oh, my go-to is often one of those salad packs that you can get at the grocery store. They're pre-prepared.
I'm your people.
Yeah. I often add for myself maybe some smoked tofu. You could add some chicken that you find at the grocery store as well. They often sell those pre-cooked. You can add that for a little more protein in the meal as well.
I'm totally your people. Everybody at CBC here locally knows that. I think I do that every day, though. I'll add fruit. I'll add, leftover protein from the night before. Thanks for coming in. I think it's just the time of month where people get stressed and they need that.
Yes, definitely.
And as a bonus, the muffin here, the resin muffin, kind of if you squish it, it's like a stress ball.
There you go.
Okay, I'm going to gently toss it back. Ready? Good catch.
Perfect.
Good catch. Avery, thank you very much. Have a good week.
Thank you for having me. You too.
Getting you set up to build a nutritious meal and think about that at the end of the day, even though it's busy and you're running around. A little bit of planning goes a long way. Avery Penner, public health dietitian with the WRHA, and we'll let Aretha, not singing about food, singing about respect, take us to the news.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come on. Just a little bit, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, mister, just a little bit. I ain't gonna do you wrong while you gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong, 'cause I don't wanna. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you just a little bit, baby, just a little bit.
You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube, and your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 13 and partly cloudy downtown. It's sunny and 10 in Dauphin, cloudy and 15 in Flin Flon. The annual median wait time for an MRI in Manitoba is at its longest in at least 6 years. Provincial data suggests the wait for a scan is now almost 6 months. The Canadian Association of Medical Radiation Technologists says aging equipment, an aging population, and staff burnout could all be factors. But the association's Dana McTaggart says so too could be the way MRI technologists are trained. She suggests making training programs more accessible.
Typically, it involves you resigning from your position or taking a leave to immerse yourself full-time in study. And it's also leading some MRTs in Manitoba to investigate distance education options elsewhere.
Health Minister Uzoma Asaguera says the Manitoba government is working with post-secondary institutions to fast-track training. Red River College Polytech currently offers the only MRI program in Manitoba. It hopes to finish a review of its MRI program this year. Manitoba's healthcare system saw a significant drop in the number of reported deaths and serious injuries at its facilities last year. Critical incident reports show a 24% drop in deaths and a 17% drop in major injuries in 2024 compared to the previous year. Most of the 32 deaths and 102 major injuries cite gaps and delays in care as contributing factors. Manitoba Nurses Union President Darlene Jackson says some of these incidents could have. Fagerstrom participated in the event. He says the move from Canada is the first of many steps.
The first step, there's many steps that need to be taken, but recognition is one for sure. And people need to know they are their own people, they're their own state, and they deserve the same rights we all enjoy.
The Prime Minister's office says the decision is a path to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. The Washington Post says the Trump administration will announce today that there is a link between the use of Tylenol by pregnant women and the risk of autism. This despite medical guidelines that say it is safe for pregnant women to take the popular pain medication. Here is Montreal epidemiologist Dr. Christopher Labos.
Now, in the medical field, we always speak about probabilities. We rarely speak about certainty. We will never definitively say, yes, this does this, or no, this doesn't. But for the purpose of simplicity, let me just say this. The vast majority of doctors do not believe that Tylenol causes autism. They do not believe that this link is there.
Trump mentioned the announcement during his appearance yesterday at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, saying, quote, "I think we've found an answer to autism," end quote. The makers of Tylenol say there is no credible evidence to support the claim. The Toronto Blue Jays beat Kansas City 8-5 yesterday.
Ground ball to second. And the Blue Jays are going to the postseason.
That win made them the first American League team to clinch a playoff spot. The Jays hope to win their division for the first time since 2015. They haven't won the World Series since 1993. And sticking with sports, the Winnipeg Jets opened their preseason schedule with a game at home against the Minnesota Wild.
55th pick in 2022, and here's a chance, and Zilkin scores!
Jets forward Daniil Zilkin scoring in the first period on TSN yesterday to give Winnipeg an early 2-0 lead. That after Morgan Barron opened the scoring for the Jets. Winnipeg led 2-1 with under 3 minutes in the third before Minnesota scored a power play goal to force the game into overtime. Yakov Trennin's second goal of the game in the extra frame lifted the Wild to a 3-2 come-from-behind win. Winnipeg hosts the Edmonton Oilers Tuesday night in continued preseason action at Canada Life Centre. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is after Information Radio at 9 o'clock.
All right. Thanks a lot, Josh.
You're welcome.
So our news department this morning, thanks to Rosanna Hempel with an item in our show today, Josh Crabb, Megan Ketchison and Joni Nicolo, as well as May McKillop and Chidi Akuma, associate producers in our current affairs unit, for their work on today's program. Our community reporter, Shanley Vidal, and our live team, Corey Funk, Brad Lilies, and Abby Adiemi. Thank you, guys. Nellie Gonzalez is the Current Affairs Show's producer overall in our unit, and Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio here at CBC Manitoba. So, speaking of other shows, Marjorie Dowhouse has popped in to tell us what's coming up on the call-in portion of your show.
Well, Marcy, we're going to ask you what you think. It's been almost a week since Jimmy Kimmel's ABC announced the indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's program. So we want to hear from you. A lot of people still talking about this. We're getting reaction around the world as well, local here as well. So give us a call after 12:30 and share your thoughts.
All right. Thanks, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
And now a last look at our weather before we wrap our show, Abby.
First day of fall. I'm telling you, sunshine and humidity everywhere, Marcy. We're going to see temperatures top out around 25 across the regions. The humidity will feel around 31 for the south, and up north, we're going to see the humidity around 27. Winnipeg, we're topping out at 24 today.
All right. Speaking of up north, next week, Corey Funk and I are going to be heading north. We're going to Opaskwayak Cree Nation. Our team from CBC here, Manitoba, a group of us, will be up there. We're doing Information Radio live, though, for our part, Corey and I, on Tuesday, September 30th, which is, of course, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day. So if you are listening and you have a thought for us or a story that you'd like to pitch to our CBC team overall, or to be part of the morning show while we're in OCN, we'd love to hear from you. I'm going to open the listener line on this as well. So if you want to call us, 204-788-3205. Take care, Manitoba. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Marcy Marcusa. The Current is next on CBC.